Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
A film about Nicolas Cage, starring Nicolas Cage as Nick Cage. Did someone steal our fanfiction novel? This may be the single most meta movie ever made and a Nicolas Cage fan's wet dream. But does this self-referential love letter to Nicolas Cage do the man justice? We'll find out as we break down an aptly named homage to everyone's favorite actor, the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat a-hole? Porker, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and being until you
Pissed blood!
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
With his acting career going nowhere, his family life crumbling, and facing financial ruin, a fictional version of Nicolas Cage accepts a $1 million offer to hang out at an obsessed wealthy fan's birthday party. But things take a turn when the CIA recruits Nick to spy on his newfound friend.
Let's meet the stars of the film.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent stars the Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal, Doogie Howser, MD, aka Neil Patrick Harris, Emmy and Grammy award-winning comedian/actress Tiffany Haddish, and of course, the man who puts the Nick in Nick Cage, Academy Award-winning actor, and the man who holds the unbearable weight of his incredibly massive talent upon his legendary shoulders, Nicolas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
Let's dive into the nitty-gritty.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, such a long name, was released on March 12th, 2022 at South by Southwest, but then got its wide release on April 22nd, 2022. This is the only release in 2022 so far for Nick Cage, which is really slowing down. So he must really actually be out of debt at this point. He was at like 6 or 7 every year there for a long time. But only one. And it's at the time of recording now, we record our episodes way in advance. So we're recording in June. So it's already halfway through the year, and we only have one Nick Cage movie, which I think there's more coming, but I don't know.
I think we had to abandon.
Yeah, we had to abandon Butcher's Crossing because we thought we were going to be able to do it this year, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. There's The Old Way, I think, might be coming out, but I haven't really heard any updates on that project. But this may end up being the only movie that Nick Cage releases in 2022, which would be crazy.
Yeah. Actually, no, not you saying. I think I heard recently that The Old Way was in post-production.
So maybe in the fall or something.
It might hit fall, and if it gets some buzz, they might do the Oscar stuff since he's got some weight behind him right now.
Yeah, and Renfield, I don't know the status of that project. I've only seen that one production picture.
Yeah, I know they're finished doing principal photography, I believe, so that you're probably not looking until next year.
Yeah.
I don't see that coming out this year.
I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of effects. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea what that project really is. I'm hoping that it's black and white based on the,
based on the
production photos.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
You think they'll give it the dog treatment?
Just make one full section of the movie in black and white, the rest in color.
Yeah.
Budget was $30 million, which is definitely the highest Nick Cage budget in a long time. $30 million. And I have to wonder how much of that was Nick Cage's salary.
Yeah.
Had to have been a ton, because he had him bent over the rails on this one. Like, who are you going to make this with if not Nick Cage?
Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to see Christopher Walken kiss young Christopher Walken in this scene.
Yeah, Christopher fucking Walken.
Box office as of now, so it is still playing in theaters, even though it's been released on home video, if you can see. It is still in theaters, just a small amount of theaters, but it is still playing. So I'll probably have to adjust this, but as of right now, it's made 28.6, so it didn't quite make back its budget and definitely lost money. Sadly, I don't think we're going to see our fabled sequel to this movie that we were talking about, of maybe the Superman comic being stolen. That hinted about script that was supposed to have been made years and years ago.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like maybe this will become a cult classic that they end up then.
I do too, but I don't think that they'll make another theatrical. And if they do, it would be way lower on the budget. And Nick Cage would have to really want to do it. And I don't think Nick Cage would want to do it.
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. Because I went and saw it in theater, and the theater was pretty packed. Honestly, other than a Marvel, let's see, I've seen 2 movies other than a Marvel movie. And this was one of them. And this was the most packed outside of a Marvel film since COVID. And everybody was there to see. I think Batman was still showing, so there were a bunch of people seeing Batman, and then Doctor Strange was kind of kicking butt a little bit at the time.
When I saw it, there were 5 people in the theater, and 3 of those people were in my group. So,
well, I went by myself because I'm a loser.
No shame in that. Directed by Tom Gormican. I think that's how you say his name, Tom Gormican, who is mostly known for writing and directing The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. But he also wrote and directed That Awkward Moment, which I haven't seen, but it looks kind of funny. It's Zac Efron, Miles Teller, and Michael B. Jordan, kind of an all-star cast. And then he also wrote Ghosted with Adam Scott and Craig Robinson, the TV show.
That's funny.
That I also didn't see. It looked like it only got like a season or 2, something like that. But hopefully this is the beginning of bigger and better things, because I think he'll get some heat from this movie and get some interesting stuff. You know, he seems to prefer writing and directing his projects, so we'll see. But going from That Awkward Moment and Ghosted to a $30 million budget already speaks to what studios thought of him.
Yeah, I have a feeling he'll probably become the next buddy comedy writer-director.
Yeah, maybe. This was written by Tom Gormican and Kevin Etten, who was the editor of the Harvard Lampoon back in the day. Harvard Lampoon is famous for Conan O'Brien wrote on it, B.J. Novak, William Randolph Hearst, which is, William Randolph Hearst.
Yeah. Those are some losers on that list, dude. I've never even heard of those guys.
Among others, there are a lot of famous people who came out of the Harvard Lampoon, but it's kind of a famous starting place for big name comedians and writers. He also wrote on Reaper, Desperate Housewives, where he won 2 Golden Globes. So,
wow, dang.
In the behind the scenes, Tom Gormican was the one who came up with this idea and like really took a leap of faith. We'll get into it in the quick facts, but it was like, wow, he took a huge risk even starting this script, like as a planned project. Mm-hmm. And I guess Nick Cage knew about it pretty early on and was like, fuck that, I'm not doing that movie.
Yeah.
So, man, the balls it takes to put your whole career on hold to do a movie that's a love letter to Nick Cage that Nick Cage himself doesn't want to star in. It's pretty crazy. Shot by Nigel Bluck, who did a lot of the episodes of True Detective, but not the good one, not the good season. Worked exclusively on season 2 and 3, it seems like.
Oh man, how
3 was a hell of a lot better than 2, but it is not. Neither one of them even holds a candle to 1. And the second season is borderline unwatchable. It is just horrendous, dude. How do you miss the dunk so bad on that second season. It was just terrible. When I saw the cast, I was like, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, put in the hands of the people who made that first season, and then it turned into what it turned into. And it was like, oh my God, what did you do? And then he also shot the Peanut Butter Falcon, which is that Shia LaBeouf movie with the kid who has Down syndrome, which got a lot of heat, Oscar buzz and stuff. It's kind of Shia LaBeouf's return to prominence a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That was a good film. It was really good. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was.
I didn't actually see it.
I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, it's really good. I recommend it. He's really good in that movie. Same with the kid with Down syndrome. And it was, I mean, man, shot-wise, like, done beautifully. It was a really well put together movie.
I will say that those 2 seasons of True Detective that weren't as good as the first season were gorgeous. So
yeah, this guy knows how to shoot a film real
the
well.
onus doesn't fall on Nigel Bluck.
No.
Plus, he has a cool name. Yeah. Nigel.
I've running theory. Like, every time I'm looking at credits for movies, I look for Nigels. You can always find one.
There's usually always one.
There's always
right?
a Nigel somewhere in there. And this was like right at the beginning of the credits. It was like cinematography by Nigel Bluck.
We should put it in the trackers. Every movie that has a Nigel working on it. How many Nigels did we have working on this one?
Oh, God.
13 Nigels.
13 Nigels.
Edited by Melissa Bretherton, who edited the new Ghostbusters movies, not the Jason Reitman one, but the Melissa McCarthy
2016 one?
the one that nobody seemed to like. But I mean, I haven't actually watched that film, but from what I saw, it looked like it was edited pretty well.
Yeah. I think that movie gets a bad rep. I haven't seen it either. I've seen clips of it, but I think people just shit on it.
I think a lot of people shit on it just because it was, the idea of having this all-girl cast. But from what I've heard, the place where it fails is not in that. It's just that all the characters are pretty bland and boring, and nobody really brings anything interesting to the table. From what I've heard, again, I haven't watched it. I do want to give it a shot at some point.
Yeah,
like put these 4 powerhouses of female comedians
at the height of their fame, and like you just missed the mark. That's sad. That's frustrating.
Also, really hate the idea that
don't say it.
Don't say took 3 white women who were scientists and renowned, prestigious people, and then they made the one black character a janitor or whatever.
Yeah.
Was it that Tiffany Haddish?
Was she sassy? No, that's
no.
Or was it? No, it's Leslie. No, not Leslie.
Leslie Jones, right?
Jones. Yeah. Leslie Jones. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like all 4 of those women are fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just the miss the mark is frustrating.
I just feel like that's where it falls down on itself, and I think the critical mass of people shitting on it also hurt it. I think even just from the onset when they started talking about it, a lot of people were like shitting on it, and I don't think that's fair. You should have given it a shot. But
Ghostbusters felt like one of those properties people were just offended at the fact that they were trying to remake.
Yeah, in general,
so just right from the get-go.
Yeah,
I feel the same way. But to be fair, this was Bill Murray's idea. Bill Murray was the one who suggested making it all women cast. So if you're going to shit on anybody, She also edited Anchorman 2, and then was an assistant editor on a lot of stuff, going back like way into the 80s. Assistant editor on a lot of the Apatow movies, which we've seen that as kind of a running theme here. Is a lot of people from the Apatow camp have kind of gone out and done bigger and better things. But she also edited the original Judge Dredd, and one of my favorite movies, kind of a forgotten movie a little bit, Falling Down with Michael Douglas. Oh, such a good movie. Basically, just a guy having a really bad day throughout the whole movie. Someone who's just kind of hit the end of their patience. But it's so cathartic to watch.
I'm gonna have to watch that movie.
It's amazing. It's Michael Douglas is just in traffic in LA, and that's where it all starts, and everything just goes off the rails after that.
Oh boy.
And then music by our guy we talked about a bunch on Bad Lieutenant, Protocol New Orleans, Mark Isham. who I'll just point out some other movies that I didn't mention during our Bad Lieutenant episode of he did 42, that Chadwick Boseman, Jackie Robinson story, The Mist, that Darabont movie with from the Stephen King story that had the most effed up ending that wasn't in the book, by the way.
Yeah.
And I won't spoil The Mist. And also Waterworld, which I found out when I fell down a rabbit hole on Wikipedia that his score was rejected for Waterworld because Kevin Costner thought it was too ethnic and bleak. Like, okay.
I guess I haven't heard it, but what a weird critique of something.
Yeah, like, I mean, I can see the bleak.
Too ethnic. Sure. I was like wondering what a too ethnic sounds like. That's.
I wonder if he wishes he could take that back.
Isham
it
or
was a different
Kevin
time.
Costner.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Costner.
I mean, that was one of the things that probably pushed the budget so high on that movie. Just one of the most expensive movies ever made at that time, and a huge failure. And you're paying Mark Isham, who even then was very famous and probably cost a fair amount to hire, and then you're like, no, too ethnic, too bleak. Don't like it.
Yeah.
And Isham himself was like, I wanted a chance to go back in and change it, but they wouldn't let me. They just fired me. So,
ooh, ouch! So they actually fired.
We
him
need his
from the movie?
original soundtrack.
Yeah.
Get leaked to Library of Congress.
Give us
or
the
whatever.
Waterworld Mark Isham cut.
Isham cut.
It's all just like tribal drums and shit, chanting.
This
It
is
would be
too
funny if
ethnic.
it's just it's a whole bunch of like music that doesn't match. It's like Native American music
It's
and like
all
Aboriginal
marimbas
and
and-
yeah, it's like mariachi band thrown in there.
It's like, well, out of context,
Yeah,
Kevin
Costner was
looks
right.
like an asshole, but he's actually right.
Oh my God! Somehow they made the xylophone sound really bleak. I don't know how they did that, but
I mean, there's ethnic and then there's too ethnic, where it's just every ethnicity imaginable thrown into a musical score.
It's
crazy.
offensive at this point.
it's like in the Dewey Cox story when he's writing the song and it has like 1,000 musicians all working on it. Needs more chanting. Rotten Tomatoes gave this an 86%, 7.2 out of 10 on 285 reviews. Pretty high up there. I haven't really tracked the 80s, but in the 90s, there's only like 5 movies that Nick Cage has been in that have gotten a 90 or above. And then this one's pretty close. I think it was in the 90s when it premiered and then slowly went down over the course of its theatrical run.
Yeah.
Audience is right there at 87%. Metacritic is 67%, which again, I know that they have some sort of weighted score, but maybe I should look into it more, like what exactly the criteria is for Metacritic. I'm not entirely sure. IMDb 7.1, so everybody's right about the same spot. But this one was surprising. It got a cinema score of a B+.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I can
Yeah,
see
that's
that
not
though,
great.
just because this really is like, you gotta love Nick to really love this movie. Otherwise, it's an entertaining movie, but if you really don't love him, a lot of the nuance and a lot of the references are gonna be lost on you.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I can see some people walking in.
I think it's
Nick Cage
mostly
movie.
It's just like the structure too, like
Yeah.
and they poke fun of that in the movie.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they
make fun of
It's
themselves,
a bait
yeah.
and switch, like to get people to think what they're watching something,
Yeah.
but they're actually watching something else. And I can see that not jiving well. As
like
so could
Pig.
they in the movie. They talk about how it's not a smart thing to do for a blockbuster, but
Yeah, starting out as kind of a character piece and then a paranoid thriller and then a blockbuster is exactly what they mention in the movie.
Yeah, but that's what makes that's what I appreciated most about it is like they're making fun of themselves. They're making fun of Hollywood and all these films, and
It's a very,
Very
very self-referential
Yes.
movie. Very meta, yeah.
very meta. I loved it. It's amazing.
which I can see critics enjoying more than the general
Yeah.
audience. Probably.
Yeah. And I definitely think it helps to know a lot, like probably too much about Nicolas Cage, like we do.
Dude, imagine being like just a Fringe fan in that scene where they go into his Nick Cage room and you're looking at shit and like, what the fuck is Mandy? Why is there a chainsaw here? What is that axe looking thing? Like there's so much stuff in there that like if you really haven't been following his career, you'd be like, what the fuck?
I don't actually feel like you need to know anything about Nick Cage. I think when he walks into that room, you just be like, wow, what an obsessed freak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This guy's way too into Nick Cage.
It kind of reminds me of a guy I know. He's got a little collection going.
Yeah, pretty soon it's going to be a whole room.
I can't wait for the wax dummy of him.
Yeah.
I still wonder, like, how many times do you think Javi has had sex with that wax dummy?
No less than 100.
Yeah. This is not for sale.
Why is there a hole in the butt?
Why is it so bent out of shape?
Yeah, the face used to look more natural, but got deformed over time with use.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
The screenplay was featured in the 2019 Blacklist and considered to be one of the best unproduced screenplays, which is always a high honor. The screenplay began as a leap of faith, according to co-writer and executive producer Kevin Etten, as the project was written on spec, with their Nicolas Cage subject having no knowledge of the filmmaker's plans. Quote, Nick didn't know us, and we didn't have a body of work that he could check. Which is, like I said, man.
It's just like, imagine just being like, just two random guys writing a script about Nicolas Cage and expecting him to star in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be us in a couple months. In between season 2 and 3.
I think writing it where Nick Cage plays Nick Cage is the more dangerous thing. Like writing a story about Nicolas Cage, or writing a movie for Nicolas Cage versus writing a movie about Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. He'd be more interested in the former, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I think he even said in interviews, like, this was one of the harder roles for him to do because he's playing himself, but a fake version of himself. It's not realistic. It's still exaggerated, you know?
Yeah. He
I
definitely.
could see that. If that was too much to be like, no, this is just nothing like me. I don't want to do this. Like, I'm not going to portray myself as this.
Yeah. He said this was the hardest role he's ever had to do, which is crazy when you think about the roles that he's had. But I can see that, you know, he's like walking a tightrope of like being Nick Cage, but not being the Nick Cage that actually exists, but the Nick Cage that people think exists from pop culture and references to him and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I can imagine if you're trying to play yourself, but you're not acting, it's going to look like you're not acting. So it's going to look really unnatural and terrible of a performance. So
plus I'm sure like there's part of him that wants to keep that privacy. Like,
for sure.
You know, there's this image of who he is out there in the media and that's cool. But to really be yourself is more vulnerable than portraying a character on screen.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's part of that too, which
I don't know that we ever really got real, true Nicolas Cage in this movie.
Yeah, I think there were parts.
I feel like Nick Cage is a very like quiet, reserved person in real life, and not at all this over the top, insane person that people think he is. Though he does dress like a cartoon character a lot when he goes out and about.
What are you talking about?
I guess that's just his
that could just be
projecting.
a distraction. Yeah, like a distraction so that you focus on that shit and. You know, he doesn't.
It's not like Johnny Depp, where he's just like he's very.
I don't know.
Curated his look of like how many handkerchiefs should I wear today? How many different belts should I have on?
How many
rings? I have to
rings?
say, like leopard print leather jacket is a little excessive, Dick.
It is.
Tone it down.
Yeah,
tone it down.
But you know, I'm sure there's a story behind every piece of clothing that he wears. But you know,
I saw this in the store and I just had to have it.
I was like, that looks like me. Looks like something.
This reminds me of something the Ghost Rider would wear. And I am the Ghost Rider, so.
It's just a very eccentric person, I think, and with tons of money and an excuse to dress up when you're in public because people are watching your every move.
Yeah.
That's probably where that comes from.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage was against the idea of playing himself, turning down several offers, but changed his mind after reading a letter that Tom Gormican wrote him. Nicolas Cage said, quote, "I had no interest in playing myself in a movie, but then I received a very nice letter from Tom Gormican and I read his script. The first act really terrified me, and by the time I got to acts 2 and 3, I thought, Tom is taking us on an adventure that is really quite exciting." Kevin Etten said the letter outlined in a thoughtful way why we wanted to do the project, which would be a true labor of love for us because we loved Nick Cage and wanted to celebrate him and to work with him. Gormican added, "We wanted to make clear that we were in no way making fun of Nicolas Cage. The film would be an homage to his body of work, and that just as his work spans so many genres, so would our film." It was Gormican and Etten's passion for Cage's work, shared by millions around the globe, that inspired them to develop the idea in the first place. And Tom Gormican said, "There's so much goodwill out there for Nick, and people just want him to succeed. And we thought, what is he really like as a person?" And that's where the idea came from. According to an interview in The Hollywood Reporter, Nick Cage turned down the movie 3 or 4 times before accepting it. So it took a lot. He said in a few different things I've read that it was that letter that really made him decide to even give it a shot, because he had heard about it. And I think he'd heard about that other script that we were talking about where there was a rumored film that was going to be about people breaking into Nick Cage's house and stealing his Superman comic. And it was going to be, they wanted Nick Cage to play Nick Cage, and it was going to kind of be a starring vehicle for him, but, you know, sort of a love letter to Nick Cage in a very similar way. Which I don't know where that one went or what happened to the people who were going to make that one, but it seems like it went away. Now you can never make this film again. This is the first time since Fast Times at Ridgemont High that Nicolas Cage is credited with his real name of Nicolas Kim Coppola in the credits. But that's Nicky is credited as Nicolas Kim Coppola, and Nick N-I-C-K Cage is credited as Nicolas Cage.
That's funny.
I've been seeing a lot of people are now spelling his name N-I-C-K, but it's actually N-I-C.
Yeah, and the subtitles did it too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the subtitles, they're referencing the character. When I was writing the breakdown, it was a delicate balance of like talking about Nick and talking about Nick, you know?
Yeah, you actually called that at one point.
Yeah. In real life, when Nicolas Cage is referred to by his nickname, it's spelled N-I-C. This film makes it clear that the lead character's name is spelled N-I-C-K, to make it clear that while the character is based on the actor, it is still a fictional character. So that's their way of getting around. Though people still call him Nicholas in a few different scenes. So
I think Olivia calls him that.
Yeah. And I think Maria calls him Nicholas a few times. But she's mostly like referring to like when he's in the Con Air scene at the very beginning. She's Nicolas Cage is
Nicolas Cage.
He's incredible or whatever.
It's fucking amazing hearing. Yeah.
Nicolas Cage Javi. Well, Nicolas Cage Javi.
Nicolas Cage Javi. He just legally changed his name after this whole thing. Nicolas Cage Javi.
Nicolas Cage thought Javi was actually the best written character in the movie. So much so, he even asked to trade parts.
That would have been so
really
funny.
Really want to see that movie.
Oh, yeah. Pedro just being Nicolas Cage.
He thought playing his own biggest fan was more meta than playing himself. It wasn't until Pedro Pascal was cast that eventually Cage relented and decided to play himself.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious. Yeah, it would be
Because
John
then he could really go
Travolta
over the top and like, like him going over the top doing a Nicolas Cage impression because he's such a big fan of Nicolas Cage, but it's him doing it. Would have been pretty funny.
Yeah. It would have been funny to just see like a John Malkovich style movie where Nick Cage just plays every character. According to Tiffany Haddish, she told Nicolas Cage a story about having sex while watching Face Off as her first time in a movie theater.
Yeah, that was awkward. I actually listened to that interview.
So her first time in a movie theater, she had sex, and it was during Face Off?
Yeah, I guess so.
How old was she?
Didn't do the math, but 1997, so... Anyways, Cage laughed about it, saying it was a symbol of their impending marriage. So I think she got married to the guy who she had sex with in the movie theater.
All right. She's 42, so she was...
So take away 25. 17?
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm thinking teenage. Not as bad as I was thinking.
Oh my god, that's just like she's 9 years old.
Well, I was like, I don't know how old Tiffany Haddish is. She could be like in her mid 30s
She had to be at
or
least 17 years old to get into
yeah.
an R-rated movie. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Or you go in with an adult, and then that just makes it an even darker
that makes
story.
it even creepier.
Nicolas Cage actually handpicked Tiffany Haddish based on a recommendation by his friend, writer and director Paul Schrader.
Okay. That's really random.
Yeah. I don't even remember.
I'm a big fan of Tiffany Haddish.
I just wonder, like, when did Paul Schrader and Tiffany Haddish work together?
Maybe he just likes her.
I just liked her on the SNLs.
Yeah.
I mean, he said that Paul Schrader was friends with Tiffany Haddish. I mean, she's a good choice. I always like Tiffany Haddish when she shows up in things.
Mm-hmm. First thing I ever saw her in was Shark Week last year, and I was like, who the fuck is this? Who's this not funny person?
Oh, yeah, she hosted a Shark Week last year, right?
Yeah.
She's been around for a while. Yeah, long time now. She's had kind of a long-spanning career where she's just kind of shown up as like the background person or like the friend or whatever. Didn't really get into a starring role until, somewhat recently in the last 10 years.
Yeah, she's definitely the last 10 years is where she's ramped up her big credits.
And at some point she crossed paths with our pal Paul Schrader.
Yeah.
Though the movie is set mainly in Mallorca, Spain, no filming actually took place there. The website TV Tropes said that scenes set in Mallorca were actually filmed in Dubrovnik, I think is how you say it, Croatia, which is where they shot the bulk of King's Landing stuff from Game of Thrones. And it's become like a very popular place to film in general. I think it's a little cheaper, but it's gorgeous. It's like right on the ocean, beautiful. But I saw that a lot of the film was actually shot in Hungary as well. So it was, I believe, originally supposed to be shot in the U.S., but because of COVID restrictions, they went over and shot it in Hungary. And there's a quick fact that I point out, but Quentin Tarantino was supposed to be the director, but because of them moving the location to Hungary, he wasn't able to do it because of conflicts. But
that's crazy.
That
He's only done one other film that wasn't written by him, right?
He's shown up as an actor in quite a few things, but
yeah.
Sorry,
he was supposed to play the director?
No, it wasn't going to be directed by.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, he was going to play the David Gordon Green character.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah. Sorry, totally spaced that.
According to Neil Patrick Harris, Nicolas Cage had body makeup to cover all of his tattoos, which I did notice in the scene when they're getting the massages and stuff. No tattoos. And when asked, Nick Cage said this character doesn't have the tattoos Nicolas Cage has because, quote, he didn't have as many wives as him. Which I think is a funny answer.
That's really funny.
That's
why he has all those tattoos. Because he's been married 5 times. Yeah.
That's really funny.
There was,
That's a good sense of humor he's got there.
Within the film, Nicolas Cage has a daughter. In actuality, he has 2 sons with a third child on the way, which I looked it up, and it is going to be a girl. His baby that he's having with the girl he met on Prisoners of the Ghostland, which might be the only good thing that came out of that movie. And her name is going to be Lennon Augie Cage in honor of John Lennon and his dad, Augustus Coppola, which, why did you give one of the boys? Because he's got Weston and Kal-El as his sons. Why didn't you saddle one of them with Augie as a middle name, not a girl having Augie?
I guess Augie could be unisex.
I guess. I don't know. It's just,
Augusta.
He said that Across the Universe is his favorite song of all time, which
Wow.
I figured it'd be an Elvis song because there's a running trope we haven't really talked about on the show, but there's an Elvis song in just about every single Nicolas Cage movie, which might be something we need to track at some point. But
Wow.
that's something going back, I think, to Wild at Heart. Which Wild at Heart is getting a lot of love this season from other movies talking about it, and we're gonna have to definitely do that one early next season, so we can kind of connect all of these movies to that movie. Because a lot of directors really love Wild at Heart. It's funny, like when we were doing the first season, everybody referenced Vampire's Kiss, and now everybody's referencing Wild at Heart, which the Nicky character is basically the him doing press for Wild at Heart on the Wogan show that we talked about a couple episodes ago. He kind of based it off of that guy, and Nick Cage himself said the reason that he chose that persona was because he hated that version of himself. Like he was like, I watched that interview and I was like, wow, look at this arrogant punk kind of idiot. I'm so glad I'm not that person anymore. And so that's why he chose that as his kind of alter ego in this movie. It's kind of the look he wanted to go for. So he's actually wearing the Wild at Heart logo on his shirt. And he's wearing the leather jacket that he wore on the Wogan show, and his hair was exactly the same as it was on the Wogan show. There's a sequence that was completely cut from this movie, which we will talk about when we get to it in the movie. I pointed out in a quick fact. I just wrote quick fact in there, so Nigel, you'll have to throw to me on that because I watched it on the Blu-ray, but we'll talk about it there. But a sequence involving Nicolas Cage reprising some of his most iconic roles like Face Off, Con Air, Leaving Las Vegas, and Gone in 60 Seconds in a long black and white fight sequence between him and his younger self in a surrealist German expressionist set evoking the cabinet of Dr. Caligari was cut from the film. The studio thought it didn't fit the third act. But I actually, like, when I watched back the movie, I think it would have fit perfectly in that section. Yeah. And it's such a, like, that is, I mean, we've done only, 25 episodes of this show, and we have talked about German expressionist film in just about every episode. Yeah. Because Nick Cage loves that stuff. And like based, his Moonstruck character was based off of Metropolis, and then his movements were based off of Nosferatu and Vampire's Kiss, and so he's very into that German expressionist silent film era. Oh, especially Dr. Caligari.
Yeah, he lets you know in this film how
he definitely lets you know. Yeah,
so many references to it.
Nicolas Cage said in an interview that he probably will never watch the movie because the idea of going meta and playing a quote-unquote surrealistic version of himself and a quote-unquote surrealistic version or interpretation of his younger self going head-to-head might be too psychologically invasive for Nicolas Cage. I will go to the premiere, but I'm probably not going to be sitting in the audience. However, due to a conflict between the director and the studio, Cage had to watch the movie to decide whether some scenes should be cut or not. So he ultimately did end up having to watch the movie.
Yeah, take that.
I've heard that about Johnny Depp. Like, he doesn't watch any of his movies at all, which I could see that too. But
I think feel like for him, it's like he also doesn't want to like reference himself in other movies. Like,
well, piss poor job on that part then.
At the end of principal photography, the whole cast was gifted with a pillow with Nicolas Cage's face on it. And they're all autographed by Nick Cage, which is like...
that's awesome.
Is it the pillow you have? The sequin one he's got?
I don't know if you could see it in the background there, but yeah, the one that's just his face, the one that was in the movie. That's the same one that's... what do you do with that afterwards?
I have a few ideas.
Treat it like Javi's wax dummy. And then the final
there.
quick fact, this is actually kind of monumentous. This is Nicolas Cage's 100th film role, which is kind of crazy that it landed on a movie where he plays himself.
Yeah.
It's kind of perfect. And it's also our 25th episode.
I was going to say,
Nice.
we're a quarter way
So we're a
through.
quarter of the way there.
Well, technically we're
Technically
one
not. Technically
short
we're
because
24.
of Dark.
right.
We've only
Son
done
of a
24.
Shredder.
But
fuck
our next
this
film,
man.
25.
Yeah.
You know, fuck it. We'll count that one. Is he credited?
It is counted in IMDb, but it doesn't count as a film role. But
I mean, that movie doesn't really count as a film, so.
no, it does not.
I mean, it's dying with the
All right, it's time to break down the film one scene at a time. Act 1. Why don't we set some shit up?
Our love letter to Nicolas Cage begins with a clip from Con Air where, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie like I haven't yet, Cameron Poe meets his daughter for the first time after being in prison for her whole life and gives her the stuffed rabbit he's been killing bad guys to protect through the whole movie. Tune in for more on that during our special Con Air episode.
Have you really never seen Con Air? Wow.
Like I said,
I
was
knew
not a
there was
Nicolas
somebody
Cage
out
fan.
there who had never seen Con Air.
I've seen it like 3 times since I started this job.
We cut to a couple watching the movie, remarking on how Nicolas Cage is like poetry in motion, obviously characters of extreme sophistication and class. But they are rudely interrupted by some bad guys in ski masks who kidnap the girl. What was it? I was trying to think. I was like, was this scene in Mexico? But there was not the Mexican filter over it, so I don't think it was. And it turned out it wasn't.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Catalan.
I think it's supposed to be like Spain, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't really understand where she
Catalonia, I
was.
think, or whatever.
Yeah.
it was.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Catalonia. Yeah.
It's the eastern side of Spain, which is the only part of Spain that I've been to. I've been to Barcelona, and I went up north
Barcelona.
into the Pyrenees, and there are Catalonia flags everywhere because they want to go independent from the rest of Spain. They want to be their own country.
Why? When do you want to be part of Spain?
We cut to Los Angeles, where the greatest actor to ever grace the silver screen screams along to Creedence Clearwater Revival. While driving to a lunch meeting with Joe director David Gordon Green. Nick, or should I say Nick, with a K, waxes poetic about the film and seems to already have the lead role in the film David is directing, but then messes it all up by giving a super cagey, unhinged line reading that even after David tells him an actor of his caliber doesn't need to audition since he's Nicolas Cage, but Nick seems to want the validation, so he does it anyway. He delivers the line, and I'm going to read it, but it's not going to be like he delivers it because I don't
Only he
remember
could
it.
deliver
But
it that way.
it was with a
Yeah.
Boston accent that was terrible. And
I don't
really
think it was a
hammy.
Boston accent.
He said it was supposed to be one.
I know.
Yeah.
The line is, "It's a foregone conclusion, Jimmy. It takes 15 milliseconds for the human brain to send a message to the body. So by the time your bullets hit me, my cerebral cortex will have transmitted a signal to the 17 helping muscles that operate my trigger finger. And before your asshole has a chance to pucker up, your medulla oblongata will be splattered on the fucking wall behind you. And if that's the last thing I accomplish on this beautiful green earth, well then, ha! I say, ha! What a way to fucking go."
I kind of wonder if in that scene we were supposed to interpret that Nick changed the line that was originally in the script for the film that David Gordon Green is directing there, and he added a bunch of shit to it, like the medulla oblongata and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, man.
I just wanted to put my own spin on it,
Right.
and then he was like, "Holy shit!" Oh wait, we get to it.
Yeah. Well, his delivery does have the opposite effect, unfortunately, and clearly David Gordon Green rethinks Nick for the part by saying,
Holy shit.
but not in a good way. Quick fact, the original script had a plot involving Nicolas Cage chasing down Quentin Tarantino to earn a role for his next movie, but was changed to another scene featuring a cameo appearance from director David Gordon Green.
Yeah, I think originally it was supposed to be Quentin Tarantino's birthday. So he was supposed to like crash Tarantino's birthday and, try and like really cagily get into Tarantino's next film. That was kind of the whole idea. And then, like I said, because of conflicts, Tarantino wasn't able to do it. I think Tarantino wanted to do it, but it was like he wasn't able to do it because of COVID stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he's in pre-production on other things. And yeah,
should have a Paul Schrader. It's usually the stand-in for when directors can't cameo in things, even his own movies.
He's a great actor, so it would have been. Would have just put him off to the corner. Holy shit.
Nick drives down the road happy as hell with how the line reading went, sitting next to a somewhat creepy deepfake of his younger self. Young Nick, or Nicky, says he really needs this role because he needs to make more, quote, movie star choices rather than be in every other Paul Schrader film. We cut to Nick at the psychiatrist, and she's driving around L.A. talking to his younger self about how he's a vampire, obviously in desperate need of clinical help. He tells her he's tired of people telling him he's doing too many films and never felt as though he had a career, but rather he just likes to work constantly.
I love his delivery in that scene.
You're making too many movies, Nick. You're working too hard, Nick. You have the audience miss you more, Nick. I mean, hello, it's my job. I pay my bills. I feed my family. You're annoying. Gosh.
She asks if he's afraid he's lost some of his talent, and he says that the movie is the role of a lifetime. She then asks how his anxiety over his career affects his family and cuts to his daughter sitting in the room with him. His daughter, Addie, says all he talks about is his career and old German expressionist films such as The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and it's clear that she absolutely hated it. He drops Addie off at Nick's ex-wife Olivia's house, where Nick laments that his daughter doesn't share his interests and says she thought that Humphrey Bogart was a porn star. We've reached a new level of meta, guys.
We know he loves Bogart, man.
Yeah, I wish he would have said it in the accent.
She thought I was resisting. Yeah, that's right. Resisting. And my friend was just trying to save me.
Yeah, it does. Bogart impression.
Yeah, see, she thought I was a porn star, see?
Olivia tells him to make sure he comes to her birthday party while Nick takes a call from his agent who asks Nick how he met Addie's mother. Get it? I'm sure it's a legendary story.
Falls his agent flat on itself in the very last season.
His agent Fink is played by Neil Patrick Harris. Then meets with Nick at a Turkish bathhouse or something where they're beaten with seaweed for a bit, and Fink drops the news that they've received another offer. Nick asks what it's about, and Fink says it's about $1 million, which feels like a real conversation Nick had with his actual agent several times throughout the 2010s.
It's another really Paul Schrader film, huh?
That is it? $1 million? All right. Can we get Willem Dafoe to show up? Because that'd be fun.
I'll give him $100,000.
Fink says it's a birthday party for a rich guy, and Nick is disgusted at the idea. I wonder how many offers he's actually got in real life of just showing up to parties and stuff. And
probably a lot. Yeah.
Tell him to fuck off.
But, it's got to be tempting sometimes, especially if you're like, he was hugely in debt there for a while after all those divorces and stuff, and buying all those islands and castles and junk. Yeah. So I bet you this exact situation has happened to real Nicolas Cage before.
I think all of this stuff is very autobiographical.
Yeah.
So. Which may have been why he was reluctant to do it, because it's too uncomfortable to play this in a role. But turns out he was a good sport about it, so it's good. Fink says Nick has been living at the Sunset Tower in Hollywood for a year, owes them $600,000, and has substantial debts. So where does Nick end and Nicolas Cage begin?
Jesus. Like, how? This is like a real thing, too. Like, people can rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars at these high-end hotels.
But they're not going to throw Nicolas Cage out, I think. And they're he's good for it.
He tells his agent he's going to get this big role, and when he does, he's back. Not that he ever went anywhere. Which is like a weird motto in this movie.
Yeah.
Again,
I feel like,
biographical.
I think people thought that he went away, like he wasn't a big star. But as we've seen, like, he purposefully left behind the big blockbuster stuff to do these small roles, which is exactly what he kind of talks about in the movie of when Nicky confronts him at the bar, where he's like, you know, you're a movie star. You can't be the gay uncle in a Duplass movie.
Yeah.
That was such a great line. It's interesting because I think a lot of mainstream people think he just disappeared, but then like film fans have followed his career throughout, and his independent films from Joe to what's that one, Mom and Dad to Pig and all Mandy. Like, I mean, dude, there are people that speak very highly of his.
I mean, that's where he started, films. You know, was those indie films like Raising Arizona and Wild at Heart and all of those kinds of movies. He didn't become mainstream until he, you know, started doing like The Rock and Con Air and those types of movies. But before that, he was very into these art house type of movies.
Yeah. I think that gets lost on people, though, because of how popular Wild at Heart and Raising Arizona became. I mean,
became after the fact. They were definitely indie films at the time.
At the time they were. But you look at where those writers and directors have gone, and that just gets swept into their huge blockbuster.
All of those films at the beginning with like Moonstruck and Vampire's Kiss, especially Wild at Heart, Red Rock West. All of those movies were like very kind of like divisive and not films that a mainstream actor would do. And then, you know, he got to a point where he said ghostwriter broke him and he didn't want to do blockbusters anymore. So he went and did indie films and
and then to the general audience,
it
not
looked like
doing
he
blockbusters
just
means you're
off
gone.
The face of the earth. So get off his balls, man.
And also, there was a healthy dose of just doing a bunch of real shit movies because
he did a lot of movies in there,
streaming and stuff. So,
some of those movies are absolute garbage. Dog eat dog.
Yeah. So from his perspective, he didn't stop working, but from the general audience perspective, he disappeared, and when he didn't show up, it was for some crap.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that's basically what they say in the movie. You know, when he's talking, I like to work. What's wrong with that?
Kind of, and that is his mentality in real life too. Is he doesn't see it as a career; he just sees it as constant work. Like he's consistently working.
But he did say in an interview that he was doing roles just to pay off debts at a certain point, but he also said he never phoned it in, and he finally is now out of debt. So
yeah. Which I don't know. Has he watched his performance in Dog Eat Dog? At one point, it was just like, I think it was genuinely just him.
That was just a paycheck, man.
Walking around.
I mean, and that could have also been Schrader telling him to act like that. Because it's completely different in the other Schrader movies. So
we're going to get into a lot of those movies over the course of this show, and I wonder how many times we're going to run into that where it's just like, God, he brought nothing to this. So, you know. Jiu-jitsu. He brought something to jiu-jitsu. I don't know if it was good, but he brought something. Stolen.
He shows up at his daughter's birthday party, but gets a call from Fink informing him that he's been passed over for the role thanks to his insane, unprompted line reading. This causes Nick to channel Red from Mandy and just pick a movie. It just channels the drunk
Walter.
Walter from Grand Isle, Red from Mandy,
pounds a bottle of Jack
from
Daniels.
Color Out of Space,
Drink.
Joe from Joe. Anyway,
Joe.
he chugs a half bottle of whiskey at his daughter's 16-year-old birthday party. Just what every 16-year-old girl wants, their drunk dad to crash their birthday party with all their friends. So next
doesn't get more embarrassing than having your dad sing you a song in front of all your friends. Your 16th birthday.
Especially if your dad's Nicolas Cage, and most of these kids probably have no idea who he is aside from doing a bunch of shitty movies.
No, they've probably seen him in The Croods.
So he drunkenly ruins his daughter's birthday party by telling a heartfelt story about how when Addie was 9, they drove overnight to the Grand Canyon and they watched the sunrise while Addie rested her head on Nick's shoulder. And he calls it the happiest moment of his life. He says he composed a song in that moment to sing on her 16th birthday, which he then screams while stopping now and again to talk about how real talent isn't appreciated in Hollywood.
I'll support whatever you choose, only I wouldn't recommend a life in the arts. Especially with how real talent goes unappreciated in this shithole town. Sun rising.
Oh, so cringy.
His ex-wife drives him home and tells him he needs to get his shit together. He heads home to his room at the Sunset Tower, only to find he's been locked out, which prompts him to call Fink and agree to do the birthday party. And he lets him know after the party that he's retiring from acting forever. And another part that I think was very heartfelt is his opinions on acting and how he just felt he was honored to be a part of one of the greatest traditions in human history, telling stories and myth making and all that. And based on what he said in interviews, that is how he genuinely feels, I think.
Yeah.
Even when he does things like Dark or Dying of the Light or the crappy ones, it's still,
I think
he seems to be a fan of the art.
My question is kind of like, where does this character end and where does actual Nick Cage begin?
Yeah.
Because you got to assume that the writers saw him say that in an interview and then they put that into the film. So it's like,
I think that's where some of his
really coming from Nicolas Cage, or is this coming from Tom Gormican? And
who got it from Nicolas Cage? But maybe he wasn't being sincere when he said it in the original interview. Who knows?
No, I think he is. I think this is. Yeah, this is how I think he really feels about film.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where some of the hesitation came from at first. He's worried that they were going to pick on him because I know he said in an interview that he's worried that it might be more of the SNL treatment where Andy Samberg sat next to him and just kind of shit on him right to his face. Yeah. And it wasn't very ironic. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of
this one. I think once he read the script, he probably felt like they actually understood him and were trying to respect him and paint him in a sympathetic light, positive light.
It makes me wonder if he felt that, like maybe it was still kind of poking fun of him, even when he was making it. Because if you remember when he had that drunken thing where he was thrown out of the casino in Vegas barefoot and like refusing to leave, that the next day were shots of him in the scene with Demi Moore at the end of the film, and her hugging him and feeling bad, for him and like what he went through because he got arrested and stuff. Yeah, so I don't know. I wonder what was going on with him psychologically while he was making this film, if he did feel like maybe this is the end, or maybe he was just getting into character. I don't know.
Like I said to a One Cage fan on our YouTube channel, who hasn't been thrown out of a club or bar in Vegas for being obnoxiously drunk?
It's true.
Maybe you try to fight a cutout Michael Phelps in a subway. I don't know. Maybe you try to fight a wizard in the food court there. These are just things I'm not saying that I ever did these things, but they might have happened, Vegas is a magical place.
I mean, if you're not thrown out of places in Vegas, you're kind of doing it wrong, right?
Yeah. What are you, sober?
What's the point of going there?
On a private jet, he sees a story about the girl we saw kidnapped at the beginning of the film before flipping channels to The Rock, which seems to make him lament for the good old days. He lands on Mallorca, Spain, where we see Tiffany Haddish, a.k.a. Vivian, in a tiny airport talking to a partner who spots Nick coming off the plane. Vivian says, "That motherfucker from Moonstruck?" And her partner, Martin, says, "No, Face Off." Martin says they should abort, but Vivian decides to use Nick as their ticket into busting a crime lord. She fake fangirls out about the Croods 2 while planting a GPS on him.
I think it's funny because we talked about this exact thing. Like Moonstruck is kind of for the women and Face Off is for the guys.
Yeah, it's funny how much we reference some of these things. It's like, okay, everybody feels the same way.
Yeah. And I think when her fangirling on him is very, it's happened to him 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I loved you in Moonstruck. Oh, yeah. Moonstruck.
He's like, okay.
Or whatever.
Did you know it was
Croods. My nephews loved you in Croods 2 or whatever. He was like, oh, yeah, I had fun in that. That was a fun one. Yeah.
That was a good one.
Emma Stone was in that.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, Emma. Oh, yeah, I was in it with Emma Stone. Yeah, I did that with Emma Stone.
He just has these... Like movie star small talk just has to be like, say you had fun working on something. Yeah. Mention how nice another co-star was. Move on.
Say hello to
say
your
hi
nephew.
To whoever. Yeah, you're a fan of
your nephew for me.
Yeah, I thought it was a very genuine oh, thank you.
Yeah, and it was at an airport. I'm sure that happens literally every time he goes to an airport or anywhere in public.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I saw Danny Glover in an airport one time, and he did kind of the exact same thing. Like everybody just stopped and looked at him, and it was creepy. Like, you know, the flight attendant, like the people who were at the front desk, like stopped and they're like, "Do you guys know who that is?" We're like, "Yeah, it's Danny Glover." And
we don't.
Then somebody ran up to him and like tried to get a picture with him, and he was very like cordial and nice and signed an autograph. But you could tell he just wanted to get home. He probably just came off of a really long flight.
How horrible it is at the airplane too. Like especially if you got a connecting flight, you're trying to get somewhere. It's bad enough when you don't have people mobbing you.
Yeah,
people like when you do those smaller private jets, the airports are much smaller, so at least you only have to deal with a couple people.
One Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany Haddish.
Or the guy from Mad TV. That's why he was not funny in this movie.
I thought it was funny when he's like, "No, I haven't seen the Cruise 2. I'm a grown fucking man."
42 years old. Why would I watch Cruise 2?
I did laugh at that because I'm like, now we got to watch Cruise 2. So
yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was laughing.
I didn't even know he was in it.
Next season will be the first time we do an animated film, but it's going to be our Christmas episode because we have that Christmas Carol movie that Nick Cage was in. He's barely in. He's like Marley, I believe. So.
Oh, man.
Nick arrives at a boat and is taken by the Mandalorian to Javi's while talking to Fink on the phone. Fink tells Nick that Javi, the rich guy he's there to see, owns olive groves, and we find out he wrote a screenplay for a movie he wants Nick to star in. At the dock, Nick tells Oberyn Martell that if Javi wants him to suck his dick or fuck his wife or watch him fuck his wife, that's no bueno. And of course, the Mandalorian reveals himself to be Javi. Quick fact.
Had to throw an Oberyn Martell.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That was the first time I saw him in anything.
Maxwell Lord or whatever his name is, and was it Maxwell Lord in Wonder Woman 84?
I don't think anybody ever saw that movie. So.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw that one.
Oh, it's
going to make a Last of Us joke, but it's not out yet.
Else.
Yeah,
Joel. Yeah,
Joel.
Yeah,
I was hoping
Wonder
you'd make
Woman
a
84
crocodile
is
joke in there.
Something else. You should watch it. Jesus Christ.
DC.
Tune into One Cage After Dark, where we watch Wonder Woman 84.
Quick fact, the sunglasses worn by Javi when he first meets Nicolas Cage on the dock are the same model of Ray-Ban Olympian 2 that Cage wore in Wild at Heart.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah. Makes sense that Javi be wearing them. Mm-hmm. They're probably in the movie. They're probably the exact same sunglasses. He probably bought them from a prop auction or something.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's funny.
Javi's operations manager Gabriela asks how meeting his hero went, and Javi says it was incredible. He's so cool, and he's just right. Javi is us in this movie, except we would have totally told him he needs to watch us watch him while we fuck each other. $1 million well spent.
What, him to crocodile in the corner while we...
Yeah, he's dressed up as a crocodile.
You gotta
we
watching, Nick? You watching?
Got the costume from
Put this
Willy's
on.
Wonderland.
Yeah. He's like, wait, is that the crocodile? Is that Ally the alligator? No, it's a crocodile, bitch.
Well, we threw that thing away.
Thought everything for that movie was destroyed.
What's it so sticky?
I don't even remember doing that movie.
I was waiting for something like that in his movie, in his memorabilia room, like just some reference to some really shitty movie, and be like, I don't even remember what the hell was this from.
There's a bunch of things in that movie or in that room that I feel like we're going to recognize later on.
Yeah, that's why I bought this movie instead of renting it, because I'll just rewatch it once we're done with the show. And then I'll appreciate it more.
There's some stuff that I'm like, I know I should know this, but I'm not sure. I broke it down like when we get to the scene, I'll talk about it. But there's stuff that wasn't mentioned even in the IMDb like connections section that I recognized. So I'm sure like for years people are going to be pausing that and going like, oh, those are from this. And like there's even like another side of it that I think we don't even see. So
yeah,
I wonder if that was a longer scene and maybe there was more emphasis on that stuff because it's so quick, like through that
Yeah.
little part over to the wax dummy, and there's
Yeah,
like stuff
it was-
on the wall that isn't mentioned
there's-
as well.
Yeah, posters and whatnot on the wall and other stuff hung. Yeah.
And
I think
props, different
we get
props.
the point.
Yeah,
It would just be indulging people like us who like watching Nicolas Cage movies, but it would
Yeah.
drag down the
Just
movie
like,
for everybody
oh
else.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, look,
Give
I
it to
missed
me.
that. I missed it the first time. Oh yeah, that's gonna be people when we finish the show. That's gonna be our fucking shelf on the breakdown part. People are gonna be like, I can't even tell what the fuck's on there.
Nick gets drunk at the pool, again with no tattoos. I didn't even catch that they
Yeah.
would have covered them all up. But anyway,
just
at the
he
pool-
jumps into the pool and it doesn't come off. So I'm wondering, like, does that makeup like stay on, or maybe they had to CG it when he goes into the pool?
I think they might use like latex or something just to cover it. Something they can peel
waterproof,
off,
yeah.
but that looks natural.
It's impressive how well they can do that because he's been in a lot of movies where he's had his tattoos covered up, and you
Yeah.
can't tell.
Yeah, I never even noticed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those Hollywood makeup artists or something
Yeah.
else. They had a lot of practice. Okay, anyway. Nick gets drunk at the pool while Javi awkwardly tries to engage with everyone's favorite actor, but is interrupted by his scummy-looking cousin, Lucas. It's like a Hispanic Pete Davidson. Except somehow more gross looking
Yeah.
and unappealing.
Oh man.
I would say Pete Davidson is more gross and unappealing, in my opinion.
Not to
I'd
the
rather hang out with
ladies.
Lucas than Pete Davidson any day.
Gabriella asked Nick what he's working on next, and he said he's no longer an actor and will instead live the life of a house cat because it's just a matter of time before the great power plant upstairs turns off the juice and we retreat back to the black pit of nothingness from whence we came.
It's an amazing line.
And the way he reads it too is so good.
Lucas bashes Nick for not being a star anymore, to which I'll just say, go watch Mandy. Did you see Pig, you piece of shit? Sorry. We have strong opinions about Nick's dark period.
It's not even dark. It wasn't, you know.
No.
There's
except
a
for
lot
dark.
of great stuff.
Except
for
Yeah,
dark.
dark.
Dark. Real dark.
Nick then grabs a drink and chugs it as he sits at the bottom of the pool. It's just a great scene.
Yeah.
Dives into the pool with a full beer and then drinks it in the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
Before Javi jumps in to save him, a scene lovingly lifted directly from Nick's Oscar-winning performance in Leaving Las Vegas.
It was kind
Next
of the rock bottom in the film. Was when he like grab. I think it's a bottle of whiskey, and he's drinking the whiskey as he falls to the bottom of the pool.
Yeah,
and
he puts his thumb
Elizabeth's
over it,
shoe jumps in and saves him.
It's a nice homage.
Yeah.
The next day, Gabriella forcefully wakes Nick up from his hangover and tells him Javi wants to show him some beautiful cliffs, and for him to tell Javi he loves the cliffs, even if he hates them. She's a good manager, I guess.
Yeah.
Javi drives Nick as he tries not to hurl when suddenly Javi spots someone following them and says they must go now. He runs off into the Spanish woods as Nick chases after him in a bathrobe. At the edge of the cliff, Javi tries to get Nick to act out a scene with him, but Nick isn't having it. He yells at him to stop, and Javi tells him that he can't stop acting because whether he likes it or not, he has a gift that brings light and joy to an increasingly dark and broken world, which is exactly how we here at One Cage feel about Nicolas Cage. So that was a very well written line, I think.
Yeah.
It hit me in the feels.
Yeah. Nick finally laments and joins Javi in this imagined scene, and they jump off a cliff together, which turns out to be way higher than you'd expect.
Like
Next.
he didn't even know that it was a cliff. Like, what did you expect it to be?
I know.
The ocean was right there.
I love as they're jumping off. They're just like, oh shit.
Next, we see them sitting on the beach where they share a joint while Nick laments over his strained relationship with his daughter and his ex-wife, who he says was a makeup artist on Captain Corelli's Mandolin. Underrated film. Javi says he's in love with a woman, obviously Gabriella, but sometimes circumstances get in the way of love. He changes the subject and asks Nick what his favorite movie is, and Nick goes on a long rant about the history of cinema, and Javi tells him Face Off is his favorite, but his second favorite is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and Nick instantly falls in love with him.
These three films could not be any different from
I love it. They're just so fucking different.
I love
By
that
the
he's
way,
like,
I wonder-
Face Off, yeah, if Wu's a maestro. Like,
Yeah, who's a maestro? Yeah.
I wonder if it was an homage to Face Off that the stunt double that jumped off the cliff looked absolutely nothing like Nick Cage.
I didn't even notice it.
I don't think it was. I think that was just how Hollywood works.
I hope that's what it was, though. That's great.
He was like, yeah.
The one who was playing Javi looked exactly like
I
Pedro
know.
Pascal from behind, but the one that played Nick Cage
Looked nothing like it.
nothing like him.
I hope. I do hope so.
Next, they drink wine, and Javi says his third favorite film is Paddington 2, to which Nick says,
Bullshit, Mom.
call back to Matchstick Men.
Bullshit, man.
I missed that the first time around. I think because I was laughing.
Yeah.
They watch it, Paddington 2, and they cry through the whole thing, then play Truth or Dare in a pool. About to get all sorts of sexy. Javi asks Nick if he hated his screenplay, and Nick says Fink never even sent him a copy of it. Nick says they should head into town and have a drink while he reads the script, but Javi says he's too nervous to watch him read it. So Nick goes into town alone after saying he's having the most fun he's had in a long, long time.
I feel like they painted this friendship really well.
Yeah.
And there's not like a ton of scenes between them. I feel like sometimes films do this really well with just very short scenes, and then other films you could actually do the whole movie and still not feel like the two characters are connected.
Yeah.
I don't
This
know
one did a good
exactly
job.
what that writing, what exactly it is that makes you feel these characters actually have a genuine connection versus not. But in this one, it really felt like they actually were buddies, and Nick was actually having a really great time with Javi in like 2 minutes worth of scenes.
I think they did it because they established Nick's problems in the earlier in the movie, and then they show like how this helps. I don't know. This is like a retreat for him. And he's enjoying himself, and he finds a kindred spirit because that's the other part.
Exactly.
The problem is he wants to share what he loves with people, and people think that's overbearing, and they don't like his Germanistic expression. They don't like his love of German expression films or whatever. But he finally finds somebody who does, happens to be a super fan of his, but also he's got a kindred spirit. And of course, Javi likes him because he's Nicolas Cage. But then, we find out later Javi's got his own shit going on. So just needs a friend too.
Yeah, and their chemistry together is just so good. That really helps too. Is they just meshed really well. And sometimes you don't get that with buddy comedies.
Yeah.
Nick Cage said that Pedro Pascal was one of the weirdest people he's ever met. That his sense of humor was so like strange.
Coming from Nick Cage, that's weird.
Yeah.
He's like, that's why I liked him even more.
Yeah. As we've seen, like characters, like real life characters, are the people that Nick Cage gravitates towards the most.
You guys should, if you haven't already, you should go watch. I think it's GQ does these lie detector interviews, and they have Pedro on there. He is an eccentric dude, and you just can't help but fall in love with him because it's just like that would. I feel like that would be us if we were in that situation where we're just making fun of everything and just kind of, not taking it super serious. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, I definitely recommend watching it. It's pretty funny. It's pretty good.
I did happen to see him up on stage at Celebration.
You son of a bitch.
I was like the back of a crowd of people, but I was walking by and I heard him talking. And I was like, oh, that's Pedro Pascal. So I would have watched him talk for a bit.
I would have yelled out, Hobby.
I feel like Pedro Pascal is he's already a movie star, but I feel like he's at the cusp of becoming a really big movie star.
Feels like he gets that too. Like he
know it's
understands that.
Probably cliche, but I really feel like he would nail Zorro if he played Zorro, and maybe Marvel's take on Zorro, like almost like an MCU Zorro, would be really great to see him in that role.
I agree. I think he would do a fantastic job. He's just he's just about to hit the peak, I think, of his fame. I think with everything that he's been doing between the Star Wars stuff, with Last of Us, now some of the films that he's been in, I think I think
maybe he'll follow a Nicolas Cage arc
where he peaks,
shoot up and then peak, and then and then Get into a bunch of debt and then a bunch of indie stuff. Get burned out.
I think, no offense to our hero, but I think he's a little more together when it comes to financial stuff.
He's a little more conservative with his finances.
Yeah, he just seems like a very mellow dude. A little more grounded. No offense, Nick, but sometimes you're out there.
Yeah. I think Nick Cage grew up in fame. With Francis Ford Coppola, August Coppola was famous as well. So I think he was eccentric from the get-go, whereas Pedro was not born into fame, obviously. And
still eccentric, though.
Very eccentric, but I think that just comes with being an actor and being in the arts in general.
Yeah, and I think like coming from his background where his parents immigrated to the States and like having those roots, I think that kind of grounds you a little bit more and gives you a different perception of fame than somebody that grew up in a famous family. I mean, you see it all the time. These kids that have famous parents, they aren't always as grounded as people who came from nothing and had to work their way up.
Yeah.
At a bar in town, Nikki, Nick's younger self, shows back up and screams at Nick for saying Javi inspired him to consider doing small roles in indie films rather than remain the leading man. Nick says he's Nick fucking whoa, Cage, and that he's a movie star. And then he French kisses himself and says, Nick Cage smooches good. You tell him, Nick Cage smooches good.
I think I was the only person laughing at that scene, and I was laughing so hard I was crying.
So great. Yeah.
That was Nick Cage's idea. He actually came to them with that idea and said, this is a movie about me, and I'm in a scene with myself. I think I should French kiss myself. That's what this movie feels like.
On the way out of the bar, he's thrown into a van where he finds Martin and Vivian in the back, who tell him Javi is the head of an international arms cartel and they want him to spy on him for them. He says there's no way Javi's a murderer since, as a thespian, he can read people, and his nouveau shamanistic acting ability trumps 5 years of intelligence gathered by the CIA.
Which turns out to be true, by the way.
Yeah.
Vivian shows him a picture of the girl from the beginning of the film and explains that she's the daughter of the president of Catalonia, and she must be in Javi's compound somewhere. So they enlist Nick to help them tap into Javi's security cameras. Was it us who talked about the nouveau shamanistic thing, like that? Cage.
Yeah,
he actually describes his acting as.
Yes.
So I was like, that sounds familiar. That's such a specific thing. I don't know where I would have heard it otherwise, other than this show.
That's why.
I think it was while he was doing press for this movie. It was when he mentioned it. So.
He's also talked about it, like in reference to Vampire's Kiss and things like that, where he's like he drew a lot from those experience or those films.
Nouveau, I get, but I don't really get the shamanistic.
Unless he's supposed to
shamans.
Yeah, like he's
I don't know
tapping into otherworldly forces to play these characters.
Could be, yeah. Who knows?
Act 2. It's about time we had some conflict, wouldn't you say?
At Javi's birthday party, we see a conflicted Nick Cage listening to Vivian explain to him through an earpiece that they're about to kill the power, and he'll have just 4 minutes to sneak into the security room and tap into the cameras before they reboot. The power goes out, and Javi is immediately surrounded by bodyguards, which, I guess, we'll get to it. He's sort of like the figurehead, but not really the power behind everything. So I guess it makes sense for the bodyguards to surround him.
Yeah, because they're in public, and he's still useful.
While Nick sneaks through the house to the room where they keep the security camera servers in, I guess is what that is, like a server room. As soon as Martin and Vivian see the camera feed, thanks to a USB or whatever trickery Nick Cage does there.
Mm-hmm. They went to the same school that Riley did. CIA magic. Tapping into
just super easy, man.
They should have just cut into some sewer pipes.
Cables, yeah.
Just clip a couple things on there and good to go.
We went to, what's that, Radio Shack and got some equipment, Nick. Just use this.
Yeah. Now it's Amazon, Radio Shack's just gone. Just ordered some parts from Amazon, got them sent to the hotel. Anyways, they spot a security guard heading straight for the server room, and they tell Nick to take out an incapacitating agent that he puts on his hand. to knock the guy out. It's like a little thing that you wipe onto skin and it causes you to pass out. But of course, he wipes it on his forehead immediately, which will cause him, they tell him that it'll cause him to pass out in 30 seconds if he doesn't get the antidote, which that scene felt like it was like 5 minutes long.
Yeah. So long.
Where he got to the antidote. It turns out when he left the server room, when he walked out to see where the guard was, he accidentally locked the door. So he's just absolutely terrible at this right off the bat. And the antidote is inside, so he had to climb out the window while stumbling like mad to get back into the room. He eventually manages to get into the room, but passes out before he can apply the antidote. But Vivian yells, "Action!" which wakes him up immediately, and he gives himself the shot. I thought it was great.
Fucking actors, man.
Yeah. I love Martin's reaction to all that. Like, well, I had fun being in the CIA. We just killed Nicolas Cage. In the bathroom, he says he's still not convinced that Javi is the guy that they say he is, but revels in the idea of being a spy. He's pretty good at this espionage stuff. Vivian says good because they have another mission for him, and he freaks out saying, "Fuck that. It was terrifying."
It's kind of terrifying.
They tell him to make an excuse to stay an extra few days so he can search for Maria on the compound somewhere, the president's daughter. After Javi recounts a story about how the movie Guarding Tess, of all movies, brought he and his estranged father back together, Nick lets Javi know that he read his screenplay and he wants to do a movie with him. Not the movie he wrote, which I thought was a really funny detail. It's like, no, not that.
So you're going to act in it? No, I'm not.
No. One of the best things I've ever read. Anyways, Javi's overjoyed that he gets to work with his hero, and they decide they're going to write this movie that we're currently watching. Sort of. It gets all sorts of meta at this point.
Excuse me. Yep.
Like every scene that they describe is basically the scene we're currently watching or about to watch for the whole rest of the movie. The next day, Vivian calls Nick and tells them they found a probable location for Maria on the compound by looking at all the security cameras, thanks to him hacking into it with a USB or whatever. And they ask him to go investigate it. He heads to check out this glass door building, but Javi stops him and says if they're going to write a work of art together, they need to open their minds. So he suggests that they drop some LSD. Which, this might be the best scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, I love this sequence.
Nick says, "Fuck it, why not?" And the two of them drive into town zonked out of their minds. I love Javi, like the way he looks at Nick Cage. I feel is the way that we would look at Nick Cage. Just just so in love with him, so happy that he's there with Nick Cage, like driving around in his home, you know. This is like the greatest moment of Javi's life.
Yeah.
Javi says their movie should be character driven, but should have a big drug scene in the middle. It's like we said.
Maybe it's acid speaking, but I think we should have a drug scene.
Well, it's like he's watched other movies than Nicolas Cage has been watched. Lieutenant.
Like Mandy.
Yeah, Mandy.
They stop in town where they basically describe the movie we're currently watching, a plot-driven comedy with a paranoid thriller angle. And then Nick says two goofy-looking guys eating ice cream have been watching them the whole time. And then it's funny because it's like goes from them talking about the movie and then Javi actually being like, wait, are they actually watching this? Because he knows that there's actually, you know, bad guys potentially after them. And then Nick says Javi should do a fake laugh when he looks over at them. And he looks directly at them while doing a crazed laugh for way too long. Which makes them very confused. I love that. That might be my favorite moment of the whole movie is his laugh at these guys.
He just turns over and just laughs at him like a maniac. It's like he's trying to smile through a
looks
frown.
directly at them and starts laughing like while he's looking at them. Yeah, it's like the smiling through the pain laugh from
the pain
Joe.
From Joe. That's what it reminded me of.
Nick and Javi decide they're in trouble, so they run for it, but have to scale a wall that's in their path. Javi tells Nick to use him as a human stool. And Nick gets to the top of the wall. He tries to pull Javi up, but he can't lift him because he has a huge head.
It's so big. It's so big.
You're heavier than you look. Javi tells him to leave him behind, and Nick cries like a baby. It's like the overacting in this scene, you can credit to the drugs, but at the same time, it's just so meta, the whole thing. They say their goodbyes, and Nick jumps off the wall, but turns out they could have just walked around the wall. So Javi meets him on the other side. They give each other a big warm embrace. Then they spot two dudes who look nothing like the two dudes they just ran from, but they think that they're the same guys, so they run for it again, and Javi gets hit by a car. It's just amazing.
Oh, man.
Javi says he can't drive since he's injured, and Nick says that he can't drive because he doesn't want to drive on acid, but Javi convinces Nick to drive since he heard that Nick did all of his own driving stunts in Gone in 60 Seconds, which we talked about in our Gone in 60 Seconds episode. Just, it's like they wrote this movie specifically for us.
Yeah. I was going to say, it feels like they watched our podcast.
Yeah. Nick then ramps Javi's car into every parked vehicle and bike in town while escaping. So it's like, did he really do his own stunts there? I don't know.
Well, he probably wasn't on acid at the time.
Yeah, that's right. While escaping from the guys that they imagined were chasing them. Javi then has an epiphany that the film should be about them and their relationship. And Nick is all for it. So it's exactly the movie we're watching. He drives them back to the compound, but leaves Javi passed out in the car to go check on the building that Vivian said was probably where Javi was hiding Maria. Nick knocks on the door a few times. If she's being held captive, nobody would answer the door. But it's fine. He's still on drugs.
Yeah.
But Javi shows up behind him and then menacingly says,
"You want me to let you in there, huh?"
And then, it's like, no matter what the consequences are, this is going to change, how you feel about me, all that kind of stuff. Really setting up that Javi is actually, the person that the CIA says he is. But it turns out to be something completely different. Nick says he wants to know what's inside, regardless of the consequences of what he might see. So Javi opens the door, and rather than finding a dungeon, he finds Javi's Nicolas Cage themed man room or fat palace, whatever.
I can see a lot of jergets and tissues in there, so I think you're onto something.
Whoa, what did I slip in? Looks like a snail was in here. Javi has a huge selection of movie posters, paintings, scripts, props, magazines, film slates. It's insane. It's like my bedroom level of insane. Quick fact. Okay, so this is a incomplete list of what I could see myself, and also some Google searches and watching a couple of breakdowns of this scene from other people who would say they found every single thing. But I will say that there is stuff in here that I don't recognize that I'm sure we're going to be like, oh, that's what that was once we get to the movie. Believe it or not, we have not seen every Nicolas Cage movie
yet.
Yeah, we're getting there. That's why we're doing this. Is there's tons of Nicolas Cage films that I have not seen. So when we find them, we'll talk about them, I'm sure, at some point. But I'll go through the list here. So there's a slate from Valley Girl. There's a slate from Raising Arizona, as well as a portrait of H.I. McDonough, and a prop of the diapers, the Huggies that were in that. It's just I think just about every prop was recreated from the originals, so they didn't actually get a hold of the original props, but a lot of them were recreated. So the Huggies are just Huggies from that time period, from 87. The hand from Moonstruck is in there. The lottery ticket from It Could Happen to You, which is kind of a forgotten Nick Cage movie that's actually great, where they win the lotto, but it was like him and a waitress decide to go in on it, and then they end up falling in love. It's a great movie. Spoilers for It Could Happen to You. A copy of the screenplay from Leaving Las Vegas, as well as just like a jug of alcohol, which I think was the thing that he was drinking when he went into the pool in Leaving Las Vegas. There's a clapperboard from The Rock, as well as the nerve gas balls from from the end of The Rock. A prop of the burnt bunny from Con Air, which spoilers for Nigel is the kind of the driving force is he's being released from prison, but these other convicts take over the plane and he tries to stop them because he wants to get out of prison. But the whole time he's trying to bring that stuffed bunny because he's supposed to meet his daughter for the first time. A prop of the torch from National Treasure, the one that he's holding when he lights the trough at the end, as well as a copy of the screenplay and a poster on the wall. There's a copy of the screenplay from Lord of War, the chainsaw and axe from Mandy, and the crown from Peggy Sue Got Married, which I actually didn't see mentioned anywhere, but that's the crown when they're crowned prom king and queen. It's on the wall, like in a case, but nobody mentioned that one online. So I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff that is in that room that we'll figure out when we get there. And then there's a slate from Face Off, and the piece de resistance is the wax life-size figure of Castor Troy holding the gold guns from Face Off. Nick says that the wax dummy is grotesque and then offers him $20,000 for it. I think goes back to his, like, he's horribly in debt, and that's why he's there in the first place. But then he's about to offer $20,000 for this dummy.
Stupid wax figure.
Yeah.
After Hobby says
like
he paid $6,000 for it.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll give you $20,000 for it.
Is that supposed to be me?
It's grotesque. I'll give you $20,000 for it.
You know, those are real guns, custom made for the film.
Yeah, just drop there just in so that we would know that those guns will actually fire later on. Makes me wonder if they actually were real guns in Face Off.
Yeah, I don't know. I took that at face value as like that's a real fact, but
yeah, makes sense.
It is now.
I mean,
he said it.
Given recent events, we know that they use real weapons in some movies.
Yeah. True. Nick meets with Vivian where he tells her the girl wasn't in the vault, but he and Kavi's screenplay is coming along nicely, which I'm sure is exactly what she wanted to hear. She's like, after arguing with him for a while about him, not taking this seriously, she should suggest that he and Javi add a plot point to their movie where someone gets kidnapped so that Javi can theoretically tell him where he would hide somebody if he actually had kidnapped somebody. He says he can't do that because it's currently a buddy movie starring two Christ-like figures, and Javi will know something's up since he's a stickler for tone. As we said, the meta just keeps getting deeper and deeper throughout, to the point where the movie actually turns into a real movie at a premiere. Like, yeah. It reminds me of Adaptation. Yeah. Because that's what happens in Adaptation as well. And there's also the two characters interacting with each other. Like Charlie Kaufman just writes himself into the movie. And at a certain point, you're like, is this really still a movie? What the hell is going on? Anyways, we cut to Nick and Javi shooting clay pigeons off of Javi's balcony since we needed a trailer moment, like Vivian said in the previous scene, which is in the trailer. If you watch the trailer, there's...
I like that they're... Well, now you're discussing marketing. That's a marketing thing that they start talking about. A target audience and stuff. How are you going to pull in the audience?
Javi disagrees with adding a kidnapping to the film, and again has a menacing moment where he seems to figure out Nick is spying on him. He says Nick is lying to him and really screams at him like, "You're lying to me, Nick." And he knows why he keeps talking about a kidnapped girl, because he feels guilty about his relationship with Addie. The next day, he gets a call from Vivian saying they've been made, and if they know about the CIA following them, then they've most likely figured out that Nick is a spy. He gets ready to leave, but Javi is there waiting for him, and he tells him he needs to come with him. And on cue, we introduce the kidnapping plot to our film. I don't know. I kind of love all of this like meta.
Me too.
We just introduced the kidnapping plot in the previous scene. Javi leads Nick to a room where Olivia and Addie are waiting for him, and I love that. Like he's convinced that Javi knows that he's a spy, but then it turns out he doesn't. He just wants Nick to get through his creative block. Javi says Nick left him no choice but to bring his family into this since he's going to die creatively. Javi says he's grown to care deeply about Nick, which I love. Is like, no, he's not dying. Look at him. He's a specimen. He'll probably outlive us all. Which, you know, for a 57-year-old man, he looks pretty great.
He looked good in this film. Yeah, he looked good.
He's in great shape. I mean, his hair is obviously fake, and hey, his beard is obviously colored. But stop,
stop these.
We all have gray hair already. Just no way Nicolas Cage doesn't look exactly like Nick had in real life.
Yeah, I'm sure he's completely gray. He says that they can't keep working on the film until he resolves his issues with his ex-wife and daughter, which understandably pisses his ex-wife and daughter off because they're sick to death of everything being about his career. Like literally everything has to be about his career. He asks Javi if his family can go after lunch, and Javi gives him a confused look because he's like, what do you mean? Of course they can. Which is pretty, you know, in hindsight, after finishing the movie, it's pretty fucked up that Javi brought them into this situation, knowing that he is connected to this drug or arms dealer and all that stuff. At lunch, Nick apologizes for being so focused on his work, but they laugh in his face and call him pathetic. Addie, in a very heartfelt moment, tells him everything has been about him and he can't stand not being the center of attention. And even though he's trying, it's not good enough, nor what she needs from her dad, which, you know, she just needs him to be there. And I think that's what's really missing from their relationship is he's just not present in her life, you know. Javi says they have a lot more work to do than he realized, and then leaves to meet with his cousin, who calls him Javi Ford Coppola. It's funny. Like I said, the meta just... Yeah,
that was a good line.
Lucas tells him he's been in contact with a guy named Sergio Baldassari, who is the head of a crime family but hasn't been seen in 15 years, which is very convenient for our film. He says they want to join forces once the president is either. I wasn't really sure with this because I thought they didn't want the president to be reelected. But then he says once the president is reelected.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't follow along with what was going on.
It's like Delgado was the president, and I thought they didn't
they kidnapped
want him
his
to
daughter
be
to get him to back out.
Yeah, to drop out of the race. I don't know. Javi figures out that his cousin is the one who kidnapped the president's daughter in that scene. Nick calls Vivian and says his family has been kidnapped by Javi and his gang, so she tells him to find a gun and get Javi alone. He tells Olivia what's going on and tells her he'll be back in an hour after he takes care of something. Like George and Lenny. Lucas tells Javi Nicolas Cage is spying on him, which he laughs off completely. They both do. And then he plays him a recording of him talking to Vivian from the birthday party, which is like, how the hell did they get a hold of that?
Right.
About him, you know, thinking he's great at espionage and all that stuff.
Especially because he was talking to Vivian through an earpiece. It wasn't like it was on speakerphone
in the bathroom.
So how did they? I mean, I get they may have wiretapped the bathroom, but I don't know how he would have picked up.
I guess Javi has
talking through
Yeah. How do you get at the other side of the conversation? Convenient film things. Lucas then tells Javi that either Javi kills Nick or Lucas will kill Javi. Essentially, yeah. Either you kill him or I will kill you. I didn't know
And
how to
kill him.
write that. Yeah. And kill Nick and his family.
I'm going to watch you, watch him, watch me kill you.
Wee, what a predicament.
And then John Travolta appears.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
They
Like,
kidnapped John Travolta.
would have been amazing if when they
Face-Off
cut
too.
to the film, it's like John Travolta instead of
As
Nick
Nick
John
Cage.
Travolta playing it. That would have been so good.
Fucking hilarious.
Anyways, Nick and Javi meet up outside, and Javi apologizes for bringing his family to Spain. He says maybe a kidnapping could work for their film. It will start as a beautiful character-driven film, but slowly change into a thrilling Hollywood blockbuster. Javi asks him if he'd like to drive out to the cliffs so they can think through the third act, and Nick agrees. And on cue,
Act 3. It's about time to wrap this thing up.
Nick and Javi arrive at the cliffs and both seem pretty bummed to have to kill each other. Nick asks if Javi got new shoes and that they look incredible on him. They decide to swap shoes since both agree their shoes look great on the other guy.
I love that whole sequence.
They're all showing. Like,
I really like those shoes.
I like those shoes. Oh, good on you. I don't think I can pull them off. You're totally pulling them off. Nick says he's really glad he got to meet him, and Javi says likewise. Both say
They're
the
lucky they're the
relationship.
same shoe size.
Yeah,
How lucky.
convenient. How convenient, dude.
Well, that might be why his shoes are slipping off of him later
Yeah,
on.
I was gonna say yeah.
But then wouldn't Javi's
Right.
feet be smaller since
Yeah,
he's
so
like
they
way
wouldn't fit at
shorter?
all. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he's got clown feet.
Maybe he's got a huge, never mind.
Sword. Saber.
Dark Saber.
Dark Saber. both say their relationship is easy at the same time and have a good chuckle. Then they kiss like Nikki and Nick earlier. No, wait. They actually just head into the woods to try and kill each other instead.
It felt like that was about to happen.
I know. Yeah. You tell him nobody smooches as good as Nick Cage. Javi's just like,
Javi, smooch is good.
I can't kill you, Javi. I just kissed you. Javi pulls the gun his cousin gave him to kill Nick, and, as you probably guessed, Nick pulls out the golden guns from Face Off. Javi asks why he'd want to kill him, and Nick says because he's the head of a criminal organization, to which Javi says it's his cousin who is the crime lord. Then he reveals that when his father died, Lucas forced Javi to act as the figurehead while he ran the criminal element of the organization.
So his dad was the arms
dad was
dealer
the
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. His dad was
And
the
that's
head of
probably why they didn't get along.
Yeah.
But guarding
Yeah.
Tess brought them back together.
Right. His father was Tess.
Guarding Tess is such a goofy movie. It's like it's like a Driving Miss Daisy, but with the president's wife or whatever.
When they showed that clip of it, of Nick watching it, I was like, wait, is this a real movie? Because it looked fake as fuck. It looked like they deep faked him into it. So I was like, wait, is this a real movie?
It definitely is a real movie. I mean, it's an okay movie. I don't know. It was kind of like in that craze of The Bodyguard and all that stuff. Like that's when they made that. So
it was the Armageddon to the Deep Impact.
it was kind of like a fish out of water, funny movie, but then it turns into an action. It's almost kind of similar to this movie, actually.
Yeah, maybe that's why they used it.
That's probably why they
As a
referenced it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Javi says he loves Gabriella, but can't be with her because Lucas would use her against him. Javi says, I don't want to kill you. And Nick says, you're the last person I want to kill. So Javi says, I love you. And Nick says, I love you. And I cried like a baby in the theater. And I cried like a baby in the theater packed full of a bunch of adults.
Like you were watching Paddington 2.
Like I was watching Paddington 2.
I've heard that many times about those Paddington movies, that they're both
they are great. Paddington
really
2 is one
great.
of the highest rated movies of all time, apparently.
Yeah.
People are stoked that they're doing a third film. Like, I'm not shitting you. I've seen a bunch of positive press online about it, so we'll have to watch that one.
Maybe we'll all watch it together. So I'll watch Paddington together, cry,
Yeah.
And cry.
and then we'll kiss. Nigel Smooch is good.
Oh man! All right, so suddenly Lucas's men start shooting at them because I guess he realized Javi wouldn't actually kill the greatest actor on Earth. So they run to the cliffs, but Nick is slowed down by the shoes he just got from Javi since they don't offer great ankle support.
Penny loafers, essentially.
Penny loafers.
Yeah. They argue about who's going to run across an open field to get the truck they arrived in, and Javi says he saw how fast Nick was in National Treasure, to which Nick says that was a stuntman, and Javi says not according to the making of featurette. Which, touche, I would use that too.
Yeah. I watched that featurette, and I remember that.
He's actually the one who read it.
Yeah, it was Nick Cage. He pretty so much funny. Did as many of his own stunts as he could.
Did he jump off the aircraft carrier too?
No,
I don't think the studio would let him do that. Yeah. It might have been a dummy.
I think it was a real person, but yeah, it was like a trained diver.
Yeah. Anyways, ultimately they end up just going together anyways. So,
are you really gonna go? I'm going with you. I'm going with you. Yeah,
I'm going with you.
Pedro Pascal really like shows off comedy chops, which I don't feel like he had been able to do at any point up to this point. Nick Cage rarely gets to use his... Really?
He's pretty laughable in that.
Because his performance or because the movie's awful?
Yeah. In all seriousness, though, Pedro Pascal is pretty good in Wonder Woman 84. Like,
really?
He's just chewing scenery and hamming it up. He's pretty great.
I'll watch it just for him.
That's pretty much the only reason that we enjoyed part of it. It's just his parts.
Maybe we'll just watch a compilation.
It's honestly, it's worth watching because of how fucking baffling the movie is. Honest, like really, like every single thing in the movie is like the worst thing you can think of, worst decision you can make in a movie. It's crazy.
I heard that before it came out that DC like internal people were like, I don't know what the hell is going on with this DC universe. Like even Wonder Woman, which was the only movie at that time that people thought was
they had any kind of
actually good
praise.
Yeah.
The sequel, they were like, it's a hot mess long before that movie came out. I heard they had to go back and recut it a couple times too. So I don't know what they're doing over there. They have all the best characters, but they fuck it up every time they go out. Marvel had nothing, and they managed to make the best freaking movies you could make out of
built
comic
it
book movies.
In a cave with a box of scraps.
You know why they were able to do that? Because they have values.
Because they listened to the people who wrote the comic books.
Yeah, it was also Do or Die with Iron Man. They actually had the rights to Iron Man and Captain America and shit on the line. Like if those movies bombed, whatever investment firms that they had begged for money would own those characters as collateral.
Yep.
Even in the comics, like they would lose the rights to make those characters anymore. It would go to some other random ass thing. Like,
so it's crazy.
It was Do or Die, and I don't know how the hell WB fucks it up with some of the most popular characters in Western history. But
I think it goes way back to Superman, where they're like, let's just separate the movies and the comics completely and not put them together. And we want people who don't read comic books to make comic book movies. And
which makes sense in the... Are you talking about the 70s Superman?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense
going back to that, and that's been the motto, though, going forward all the way through.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping Matt Reeves becomes the Kevin Feige of DC, and he can rein that shit in, because he seems to be able to tell us.
I don't know, man. I didn't like that Batman movie very much either.
Really? Oh, man, I loved it. I thought it was good.
I haven't finished it. I watched half of it.
I like the detective aspect. The third act, the last part of the third act, I could have done without.
It's like 5 hours long, and it's just like, God, get on with it. Tell a story. Tell one story before you set up TV shows and other series. And
well, they did. They backed off all that other stuff.
I don't know who would want the job, to be honest, of like Kevin Feige of that with all the shit they got going on. Like, imagine having to deal with what's going on with Ezra Miller right now. Like, you're still a year out from releasing that film, and
that movie's done.
This guy's going to be fucking in prison or dead by the time the movie comes out. And they, it's like,
no, that movie's not coming out. They're going to shit can that movie.
They already canceled it. Yeah,
I've heard one of the theories is like, just recut it and make it Batman Flashpoint or whatever, and have Michael Keaton do more stuff and actually make it more of a Michael Keaton centric thing, which that's what everybody wants anyway. It's just
but he doesn't want that. He's like, fuck.
I'm sure he'll take it.
I think they got
5 minutes in this fucking film.
I think they got to scorched earth it and just start over and start it with somebody fresh who
Schneider
is a Kevin Feige, not Schneider.
Yeah,
bring
but
the
at least
Schneider
for that
cut.
Flash one specifically, they've been making that movie for like 10 years, and they finally are like,
longer
get
than that,
ever
dude.
closer. And if all this shit happens, it's like, oh my god,
dude, this movie.
They set up the Flashpoint story in Batman vs Superman forever ago.
But they've been trying to make this movie since like the early 2000s. I mean, they had all the principal actors in Australia, and then the writer strike hit, and they it's crazy.
Then they hired a creepy pedo weirdo to fucking be the Flash. Anyways, so
allegedly.
Yeah. So more to the point, back to that, I don't know who would take the Kevin Feige type job over there, because who the hell's going to want it?
Kevin Feige.
I don't even think he would want to walk into that shit show.
No.
I feel like when he ever retires, it's just going to be like, I'm done doing this.
I kind of hope that they actually end the MCU storyline that we've been following so far when Kevin Feige steps away.
That would be smart.
Yeah, I think
not going to happen though, because there's billions of dollars
money
to be made. So
yeah.
Anyways, back to the movie.
Right. They take off in the truck while being chased by two guys on motorcycles. Nick takes out one of them by pulling off his helmet, and the other crashes into the back, and Nick bashes him in the head with the helmet. When he falls out of the back, he leaves Chekhov's knife lying in the back of the truck, where it will stay for the next 20 minutes or so. Perfectly placed.
Which that confused me, because they're in a different truck later.
No, they're still in the same. They just have the top up.
They put a canopy on it? Okay.
Yeah, they put the canopy
I wondered
up.
about that. I couldn't remember. It was like,
it's the same truck. Same Jeep. It's okay.
Yeah, when did they have time to put the canopy up? Because when the girls
they had to
out,
come up, because they had to formulate the plan and make him up like the arms
when he's
dealer.
Getting his prosthetics put on. They head back to Javi's, where they find Gabriella and Olivia waiting for them. Olivia says Lucas and his goons took Addie, so Nick calls Vivian, who explains Addie's being used as leverage to get the U.S. to drop their backing of the Catalonian president. If Delgado doesn't drop out of the election, they'll kill Addie and Maria. She tells them to come to her location, and we see Vivian's side of the conversation, where she's being held at gunpoint and Martin is dead, which kind of was like, oh, well, fuck Martin. He doesn't even get like a good death scene. He's just dead in the background.
Like, I'm pretty sure that was just some
for both of them. Like,
we
just
I wasn't
kill
even
both
sure
of these
if
characters.
it was the same actor, or if they just got some random guy to be
it was the same
dead
dude.
guy.
It was the same guy.
It's interesting because I thought that after I watched it the first time, I didn't remember that they died in this scene. So when I was breaking it down, I was like, oh, but she's not actually dead. But then like, no, she never comes back.
Yeah,
so she's dead.
Yeah. She's dead, Jim. She manages to get a hold of Martin's gun and kills the bad guys just in time to save Nick, Javi, and the girls from being ambushed. Side note, how the fuck did they not hear the gunshots?
Yeah.
Like they're walking, like it's just like
they're in the building.
Yeah, and it would echo.
Yeah.
And the door to the room is open, and they're in a stairwell. A spiral stair. It's just bugged the fuck out of me, but
Save it for Coppola Questions.
I'll save it for Coppola Questions. They come in to find all four of them dead on the floor, and Javi says that they need to get out of there before more bad guys show up. Suddenly, Nick has a vision of young Nicky telling him that he's just a fucking actor, so he should leave this to the authorities rather than be a hero. Nick says he has to save his daughter, and young Nicky punches him in the face. Nicky says he's trying to help him, but Nick says, "Since when have you ever been trying to help me?"
So there's a cut scene here of this because it's in black and white when it starts, and it kind of has that old nouveau look to it, and it turns into this crazy Cabinet of Dr. Caligari mixed with Nick Cage's career, where we see him driving the Shelby from Gone in 60 Seconds, but it's like a cardboard version of the car. And he's like fighting with Nikki, and then there's a scene where they're back up against the wall, like in Face Off, where they're both like talking to each other through the wall. And then it ends with like Nikki drops down into this other room, which I'm sure is a reference to some other. It might have been Wild at Heart. I don't really. I'm not sure what that room was. We'll probably recognize it when we get to it in whatever movie that's from. But I got to imagine it was one of the first Nick Cage movies, or maybe it was Nick's bedroom when he was a kid. I have no idea. But he ends up Nick Cage ends up shooting Nikki, and that's when he takes control of himself. And that's from here on out. That's Nick is in full control of himself and not his young, arrogant kind of stupid self anymore.
That's funny. That's awesome.
Yeah,
but that was cut from the scene or from the film completely, which is a shame.
Javi takes him to a safe house he prepared just in case something like this might happen with his cousin. He says the girls are likely being held at Lucas's compound, which is impenetrable unless someone can open metal doors from the inside. Javi says Lucas wants to form an alliance with Sergio Baldassari?
Baldassari.
Was Sergio Baldassar?
Bulbasaur.
Baldassari.
Baldassari. Javi says Lucas wants to form an alliance with Sergio Baldassari. I'm just going to say it that way.
Almost.
Whatever.
Baldassari with Sergio Baldassari. Put this in post. Let's do 15-line reads.
So 11 and Baldassari.
Baldassari. Baldassari.
Mass Effect fans.
Baldassari.
They're all
Javi
bald.
says they're all bald. We're all bald. Sorry. Javi says Lucas wants to form an alliance with Sergio Baldassari, but he doesn't know what he looks like. I'm just going to go with that, guys.
It's all right.
But he doesn't know what he looks like, so he volunteers Nick to pretend to be him and walk straight through the front door.
They don't even drive in. He just walks up to the compound.
He knocks on
suspicious.
the door.
Nick's little like weird walk too the whole time. It's really getting into character.
Next, we see Nick in full prosthetics and a wig with Olivia by his side walking to Lucas's monastery compound. Lucas pulls a knife on him since he assumes he's there to kill him and only lets him go after Olivia says, "Go ahead, slice his throat." Baller move. Barbara
about that.
from Barbara Santa.
Santa Barbara.
Santa
Barbara. Barbara Santa.
Barbara Santa. I've been there.
Yeah, so I was confused by that. Was it supposed to be like she was the one actually in power?
I think it was just to show that, like he's a bad guy, so she's a bad guy, and he respects that she's, willing to put her husband's life.
Yeah, but then he doesn't deal with her. He still keeps dealing with bald asshole.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that part didn't make sense.
Asshole.
Baldassar.
Bald asshole. Bald asshole.
Bulbasaurs.
Yeah.
Bulbasaur's. Anyway, Sergio Bulbasaur. Lucas's goons show them to a room. Then they sneak to the basement where Nick knocks out a goon and steals his gun. They get caught immediately by the teacher's pet, who takes them to Lucas, who has the girls tied up and on their knees facing a wall, totally Blair Witch style. Like if this wasn't this movie, I'd be creeped out because they're just totally looking at that wall.
This is just weird. It's like they got a shop light on them and stuff. What the hell?
Well, I mean, you got to you got to magic it up for the beheading videos.
Guess maybe that was what was going on. Was they were about to film like a ransom film or something?
A snuff film.
Or
maybe. Yeah.
Lucas notices Sergio's beard falling off, and when he gets close, Nick grabs his gun. He holds Lucas while Olivia takes the girls and runs to open the door for Javi.
Why didn't they just kill him then? Because he might have killed Lucas.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Also, how did they get out of the building without somebody else? There's like tons of guards in this place, but
there's only like 6 of them.
Yeah, they were all there with Lucas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Avi decides to try to save Nick, who now has 4 guys with guns pointed at his head. Nick says all that matters is that his family is safe, and Lucas stabs him in the leg with a knife he had on his belt, I guess.
Little face-off reference.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And this is also, not to face off. He rips off Nick's wig and makeup and asks if there's anything he'd like to say before he dies. So he repeats the line he said to David Gordon Green at the beginning of the film, which, to remind you all, is it takes 15 milliseconds for the human brain to send a message to the body. So by the time your bullet hits me, my cerebral cortex will have transmitted a signal to the... Oh my gosh, I can't read this. Sorry.
What's that word? 17? What the hell does that mean?
It's really
What
light.
is that?
Where am I?
Who ever heard of 17s? What?
No, it takes 15 milliseconds for the human brain to send a message to the body. So by the time your bullet hits me, my cerebral cortex will have transmitted a signal to the 17 helping muscles that operate my trigger finger. And before your asshole has had a chance to pucker up, your medulla oblongata will be splattered on the fucking wall behind you.
And if that's the last thing I accomplish on this beautiful green earth, well then, ha! I say, ha! What a way to fucking go!
This fucking performance, dude. I also can't hear medulla oblongata without hearing it in the Waterboy.
Yeah. I think they even say medulla oblongata in the movie, and I'm like, no, that's not how you say it. You got to say it like medulla oblongata.
Medulla oblongata. No, Colonel Sanders. You wrong. All this really confuses Lucas, which, would confuse me too, and distracts him enough for Nick to grab his gun and shoot him in the shoulder. Then he shoots another goon before Javi shows up and takes out the other 3. Nick takes out another guy. Oh, sorry. He takes out the scorpion dude, right? Is that who it is? The guy that they back over the truck? Yeah, Jacob Scorpio. Scorpio. I can't remember his last name. Anyways.
I don't know. Oh, yeah, Scipio.
Right. Yeah.
The actor.
Yeah. Nick takes out...
why would I know that guy's name? Why do you know that guy's name?
Because he's been in a couple things I've seen.
I just saw his name in the credits. I didn't realize that's who that was.
And then, he's been in a couple movies I've seen recently. So when he showed up in this, I was like, oh, damn, dude, this guy's on a roll.
You can't read the word 17, but you know that
guy. Nick takes out another guy, the guy that Gabrielle just ran over a few seconds earlier. And Maria is shocked to see Nicolas Cage is the one who came to save her. Then she says, that's badass, like the guy from Prisoners of Ghostland. I don't remember how he said it, so I'm just going to say it like that.
That's badass.
Badass.
Oh, yeah. That's badass. Yeah, no, I kid, because there's no fucking reference to that film in this movie.
Yeah, I wonder why they didn't pay homage to Prisoners of the Ghostland in this.
Oh, man, thank God they didn't. Jesus fuck. Anyways, they drive away as Nick asks Addie, are you hungry? Little National Treasure call back there. But Lucas and his guys soon catch up to them. Javi volunteers to get out of the truck and slow them down long enough for Nick and the girls to get to the U.S. Embassy. Or should I say, he just jumps out of the back of the moving truck.
And then Nick stops immediately.
Yeah. And Gabriella gets out.
Yeah. Gabriella stays behind as well, and they kiss before Javi shoots at his cousin with the golden guns, and Gabrielle fires a machine gun. Javi gets shot in the arm, and Lucas takes off after Nick. A long gone in 60-second style car chase ensues before Nick blasts through the gate at the embassy.
He even does the backwards driving.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, Lucas came through with him and holds a gun to his head while tons of armed guards from the embassy pop out. Maria shows Addie the knife left by the biker earlier, and she throws the knife to him, and Nick stabs Lucas with it, like, after miraculously catching it. It's kind of a little off key here, but, it's a movie.
Yeah.
Anyways,
well, really, it is a movie at this point. Yeah.
Anyways, the scene then cuts to a movie set where Spain has changed to Pasadena City Hall, which is super recognizable now thanks to the show Parks and Rec.
Which is weird coincidence, but I was just there
I was
a month ago.
I was going to say, because of your picture in front of it, that's how I recognized it before the Parks and Rec reference hit my head. I was like, wait,
if you go back and watch, movies over the course of the last 20 years, there are so many times when Pasadena City Hall is in the background posing as something else. I've seen it a ton just because I recognize it now because of Parks and Rec. And then after being there, I went there because I was staying 2 blocks from it. And I was like, oh, that's where they filmed the Parks and Rec setup shots for City Hall. So I went and saw it. Now I see it everywhere in films and TV shows. It's like... You'll start seeing it now.
Olivia is replaced by Demi Moore, and we see that this is the premiere of he and Javi's movie they've been writing throughout the film. The audience cheers and gives Nick a standing ovation. Olivia and Addie congratulate him, and Fink says he's back, but not that he went anywhere. Not that he ever went anywhere. Javi comes in and says he was too nervous to watch and says Vanity Fair wants to interview them. Nick says he can't since he wants to spend the night with his family, but Javi should go and enjoy the fame Nick once so desperately wanted. We see Olivia, Addie, and Nick hanging out in the living room where Olivia comments on Nick's belt buckle, which is a tarantula. So fits Nick.
It's cute and cuddly.
Yeah. He says Neiman and Marcus wanted him to wear a B-shaped belt buckle to the premiere, and he said, "No, not the bees, not the bees."
Which that was also a Nick Cage. He wanted to put that in there.
I love that.
We're making a self-referential thing. Awesome. We have to put "not the bees" in here.
I'm so glad he did that. I figured he would hate that meme, but I'm glad that
he probably does. Which maybe that's why he does.
Yeah, but he's a good sport.
Yeah,
obviously, I think that's the biggest thing that's come out of this is realize that Nick Cage is. Genuinely a good sport about all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, they watch Paddington 2, and we see Nick with tears in his eyes while his daughter rests her head on his shoulder. Then we cut to the view of a bat watching them from the window, but that's a story for another time.
It did feel like the bat watching through the window.
As it then pans out to the city.
Which you see, I don't feel like they say the name of the movie, but that's where you see the poster of The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent in the background.
Yeah, they pan out there.
Kind of a, if you don't look for it, you'll miss it type of detail, which is cool.
I missed it. Now, I noticed when we were watching Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent that there's a lot of references to stuff that I didn't get because I haven't seen all these movies, like a lot of little character moments and the Leaving Las Vegas reference. I haven't seen that yet. I guess I don't religiously watch Nicolas Cage movies like you guys. I haven't even seen Face Off.
Wait, we did Face Off.
Yeah, we just did that one.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I haven't watched it though.
Do you watch our show?
Yeah, have you at least seen our breakdown of Face Off?
Have you seen our episode of Face Off?
Yeah, I did see that one. I liked the part when we said Face Off.
There were a lot of little moments that I didn't recognize either, so I could use a little refresher. But thankfully, most of the movies that were referenced are pretty popular Cage movies, and you can find them over on lovedagainmedia.com. If you use our coupon code 1CAGE at checkout, you can get an extra 15% off their already crazy low prices. I mean, when you're talking about $4 for a DVD, add another 15% to that. You can pretty much load up on all the Cage movies like I did and buy 20, 30 at a time. I think you should do some Cage reference.
Yeah.
Since we're doing a Cage show.
Yeah, you might want to start watching the films.
All right, I guess. Ooh, they have Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of Crystal Skull.
Sweet.
We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
I don't have a lot of questions. I feel like this movie was pretty well put together. Everything wrapped up pretty nicely. But one question I had when he plays the song for his daughter, do you think Nick actually knows how to play the piano? I feel like he's played the piano in a few things.
That's a good question. I could actually see that being something that he learned as a kid.
I could see that. Or learning to do it just for this because it wasn't that simple. It was a pretty easy song. Yeah, but they also didn't show his hands, so that usually means they're not actually playing.
Yeah, true.
That's why I thought maybe he doesn't. But I feel like I've seen him play in something. He sings a lot in Wild at Heart. And and I feel like he played some instruments at some point. And then Peggy Sue got married. I think he plays guitar in that. And I feel like he might have played piano. I don't remember. Long time since I've seen either of those films. So
I know he knows how to play a pinball machine.
He can play the shit out of a pinball machine. Question I had is why, I mean, I guess to get Olivia and Gabrielle, but why would they go back to Javi's rather than going to the CIA after they were attacked by the dudes on the motorcycles? Because wouldn't you think they would want backup to go into the... Maybe Javi was scared that he was going to be implicated in all this because technically he is guilty. Yeah, I mean, he knew all about it.
Yeah, right. That's my question.
Yeah,
we could jump into that if you want.
Yeah, that's one of mine. Is like, why is Javi allowed to be free? Like, did he turn against his cousin and turn everything in and get like a plea deal or something? It feels like
diplomatic immunity.
I mean, he even says like, everybody thinks I run it, or whatever. Like, because he was like, I thought you were the running it, and everybody thinks I run it because I'm supposed to. So like, yeah, that would implicate him in everything that's been going on with the arms dealership.
Right.
So
I'm guessing he made a deal with them to turn over information to shut down the organization.
But then that probably means he's probably going to get executed by somebody that puts him on some.
No,
well, that's what actually leads to my question of, wouldn't the real Sergio, since he actually exists, wouldn't he come and kill Javi?
That was one of the questions. Like, what was up with that? Did he not show up to the deal? Like,
apparently not.
How did they know that he wasn't going to show up when Nicolas Cage showed up? Or, like, he's
and why? Why would he just walk right in the front door?
Yeah. There's just a lot of this stuff that just stops making sense as you get to the climax of the film, which I don't know if it's intentional. Like, it's just playing on tropes of like stupid Hollywood action movies.
I think
like,
it is.
Shit just stops making sense because they want to do cool scenes at the end.
Yeah. I think,
but things got super confusing. Like you said, wouldn't they kidnapping the daughter so that the guy would back out of the election? But now they want him to win the election because this deal, hinges on it or something. Like,
so the Sergio Baldassare is an Italian, and he lives in Sicily or whatever, and he wanted to join forces with this crime, arms dealer cartel or whatever. But I guess, I don't know. It's weird. Like, he just would back out of it now, or would he want to get into Spain and take over Javi's business? Maybe that's what happens when Javi moves to America. And
he just gives it to him.
Yeah. Maybe that's what happened. Here you go.
I'm happy doing olives. That's all I ever wanted to do.
Does that mean that Javi no longer has any money? And
now he's a famous screenwriter. They have tons of
I guess, that's true.
Now. Yeah.
He can build his Nick Cage room in Hollywood.
Yeah, maybe he just lives with Nick Cage now. They're roommates.
Yeah.
At the hotel.
That's the sequel we need. The implication was kind of that he and Olivia get back together after this, which is like, I always kind of hate that. Of like, usually there's a good reason why people divorce. And they don't end up getting back together all the time. Though I have seen it in real life. I have a friend whose parents got divorced for like 5 years, and then they ended up getting back together. So I don't know.
I kind of thought they were just on better terms. I didn't personally think that they got back together.
Yeah, they weren't really like obviously he was coming over to their house all the time to see Addie. It wasn't like they were on the worst of terms when they weren't together. So maybe that's just, he still comes over to watch movies with him, but he still lives, separate. And they're more cool about it. Although he does tell her he loves her.
Right.
When they're over in Spain. So maybe that gets them back together again.
I mean, trauma does bring people together.
That's one of the things I actually liked about the movie. It wasn't like the fact that they were a divorced couple didn't mean that they were nasty to each other. It was just that
they were civil with one another.
They weren't meant to be together anymore.
Until he gets drunk, and then she's rightfully so.
But even then, she just still drives him home and just tells him, like, get your shit together.
Get your shit together.
Right.
And it's justified.
Needs their dad to not be a fuck up. Yeah,
exactly. It's justified. Like, you just embarrassed your daughter, and you made her birthday about you. You need to get your shit together. Like, it's justified. It's not like her just being a bitch because, that's how Hollywood writes ex-wives.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually really like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine that happens pretty often in movie star land. Like they get together for dumb reasons, and then it usually doesn't last, and they break up. But maybe they're still cordial with each other. They're just their fling didn't work out, even though they got married over it.
What do they?
I wonder if that's how Nick Cage's relationships are with
right? Yeah,
Patricia Arquette
too.
and Lisa Marie Presley and whatever.
What do they call it? Like conscious uncoupling? Is that what famous people call divorces?
What's the final tally?
Nigel, do you want to hit us with the old curse tracker?
Yeah, there was a decent amount in this movie, as you would expect from an R-rated.
Yeah, it felt like there was quite a bit.
2 uses of hell, 2 uses of goddamn, 3 uses of Jesus or Jesus Christ. Can't remember which. I track them the same. 12 uses of shit, 1 use of asshole, 1 use of bullshit.
This one's running the table like the gambit.
Yeah, there was a lot. And then 25 fucks, which is pretty high up there. That puts it behind Bad Lieutenant, which has 41. Deadfall or Weatherman with 35. Deadfall with 34. And then this one with 25. So it's up there in terms of dropping F-bombs.
There's just a lot of variety is what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
There's a decent amount spread
all over the map.
Spread on this one. And some of it was, because Nicky swore a lot. So it was like having him play 2 characters that swear. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, so that total of 52 in this movie, which is actually the second highest amount of total curses in a movie behind Bad Lieutenant with 60. So,
wow.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy for a film in 2022 to have so much cursing. I feel like that's kind of...
Yeah.
Everything's turned into PG-13 because we got to get asses in seats. And
this one, I think,
shame.
had a lower budget, so they didn't care as much. It wasn't as much on the line.
And you would expect it to be an R-rated movie if it's about Nick Cage,
Yeah.
And I think that the R-rated thing has been a new kind of trend back up with Deadpool.
Yeah.
And, what was the other R-rated? Logan,
yeah.
Yeah, it's more mainstream. So, but anyway, 52, that puts it just ahead of Vampire's Kiss at 47. So it's third on the top, or second on the list of total curses. That brings our total currently up to 498. So we'll break 500 for the next movie, I'm assuming. So.
Right on. That'll be a monumentous occasion. So our next movie will actually be our 25th movie. So that kind of works out perfect. Since we don't count Dark. Dark's not a real movie. It's kind of crazy. We're a quarter of the way through
his catalog.
Though we're going to do some things that aren't technically movies as we go along, like Dark.
Yeah.
So we will have more episodes than there are Nick Cage movies. But runtime, this is 107 minutes. So kind of in the middle, sandwiched in between Ghost Rider and Prisoners of the Ghostland. Not quite in the 90-minute range, which I feel like this movie didn't really drag at any point. I didn't feel like it felt too long. Felt like it was enjoyable. It was paced very well, and the fact that they changed genres like 3 times helped. Kept you on your toes throughout.
Yeah.
Nudity, none. There was none throughout. I didn't see any, unless you guys saw some, but I didn't see any nudity.
No.
Yeah. State and country tracker. We were in Los Angeles for the beginning of the film, and then we were in Spain for the whole rest of the. So that's our first time going to Spain. So that brings us up to 6 total countries. I think I'm going to have to throw out the Arctic Circle because I don't know what to label that as. It's just
you have to leave it in there.
It's like
you got to leave it in there.
They went somewhere in the Arctic Circle. I don't know what to categorize that as.
They don't even know where they went, so just leave it in.
That's Arctic Circle, the United States, Romania, Kenya, Japan, and Spain. And this is our 7th time going to California, which now ties it for New York. So, as I guess we would expect, New York and California are the 2 most visited places by far.
Mm-hmm.
Budget versus gross. This will have to be updated because it's still playing in theaters, but $30 million budget. $28.6 million as of now. But I will update it. So when you watch this, audience, you'll see the final number, because by the time this comes out, it'll be a month and 2 months from now, whatever. So it'll be long out of the theater by then. On our top grossing, that kind of puts it in the middle towards the top a little bit. 28.6 puts it right behind Raising Arizona at 29.2 and The Wicker Man 38.8.
God damn.
A little bit above The Weatherman, which only made 19 million, which I think was also potentially a $30 million movie. So it almost broke even, but at the same time, like we said, Hollywood math kind of has to make 3 times its budget.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I can't really consider this a flop because I feel like it's going to do really great when it goes to streaming. And every person that I've talked to about this movie is like, oh, yeah, of course I didn't go to the theater, but I will definitely watch it when it comes out on streaming. So,
yeah,
like it'll be a cult classic.
Yeah, to be fair, like unless it's a kids movie or a Marvel movie, movies are not doing well in the theaters right now.
Yeah, especially pandemic era. Seems like it's harder to get people back to the theater unless it's a Marvel movie. Yeah,
exactly.
Or a kids movie, like you said.
Or a kids movie. Like there's
or Top Gun.
Or Jurassic World.
Or Top Gun, never mind.
Is Jurassic World doing well? I thought it...
Yeah.
Did it really?
It's made like 800 million so far or something like that.
Worldwide or just in the States?
Yeah. Wow. Worldwide.
Well,
I heard nothing but bad things about that movie.
Like the rest of the world doesn't care about anything other than Jeff Goldblum.
As far as our ratings are concerned, this was an R-rated, got a theatrical release, which, you know, we haven't had tons of those in the 2000 teens to 2020s, but this one definitely did, and Pig was the last one that got a rating, and was also briefly released in theaters. So that brings us up to 10 R-rateds now, which is by far the most, which leads us to The Kill Tracker.
All right, so this is another one where I'm like little vague, little vague around some of Nick's actions around people. So I only counted like 3 deaths, because like, dude, those motorcycle guys, they got to be dead. There's no way, especially that one that just like T-boned himself into a tree or whatever. So like I counted those 2 dudes as dead, and then my buddy Jacob Scorpio or Scorpio, whatever his last name is. Because
what about the guy he shot when he shoots Lucas? Because he shoots the other guy,
right? But did he kill them? That's my question. I don't know.
I'd say it's more likely that he killed that guy than the first motorcycle guy, because that guy just kind of slipped on the ground and lost his helmet. I wouldn't say that guy was dead.
Touche. Well, then I'll take him away, and then we'll still go with 3 then, because he's the one that does shoot. Not Javi. Lucas's like right hand man, right? It's not Javi that shoots him. The guy that gets ran out. Nick
kills that guy. And
kills
and he shoots the guy in the dungeon is where they have the girls.
And then he definitely killed that one dude on that other guy on the motorcycle. I'll just say 3 that like I felt were like in real life, like take out the movie funniness, like in real life, I think those 3 he would have killed them.
Yeah.
So
I'll go with that.
We'll go with like 3 realistic deaths, which brings our total to 69. Which is nice. He didn't die in this film, thankfully, and he was not resurrected in this film. So we're still at 8 deaths over 24, 25 films, right? Well, 24. We'll call it 24.
24.
Yeah. And 2 resurrections over the 24 films. So we were hot. I know we say this all the time, but we were hot and heavy with him dying early on in season 1, and then it's really mellowed out.
Where does this masterpiece fall? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
Ratings. Vince, we'll start with you arbitrarily forever. Where does The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent rate on your Cageometer?
All right. So film, going to give it an 8. I thought it was a really fun film. I love that it was meta. I really love that they poked fun at themselves, poked fun at the industry, and in a very playful, respectful way, poked fun at Nick and his career. Could have been tighter in some areas, like the third act got a little confusing. But like we said, maybe that was intentional. Maybe they were also poking fun at the fact that sometimes movies will move plot along with nonsense just to move it along and hope that people just kind of gloss over it. So who knows? I wish it was a little bit tighter because I felt like the rest of the film was really good, really tight.
Yeah, I gotta say personally, I'm getting kind of sick of them doing that. Like we're making fun of this trope. But at the same time, it also makes the movie you're watching very confusing. Like Willy's Wonderland was a perfect example.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Okay, we get that you're making fun of these tropes, but at the same time, your movie doesn't make any sense because of it. So you've got to ground it in some reality.
Compare it to something like Tropic Thunder, which I think is at the pinnacle of how you can have a good movie, have it all make sense, and also
spoof
be poking
action,
fun of all
but
of
in
that.
a perfect way, a perfect satire.
I think like they could have tightened up the ending a little bit better. That's really my only complaint. Otherwise, I think they nailed what they exactly were trying to nail, and I think the relationship between Nick and Pedro's character really brought the movie together and held it together throughout the film of all with all the craziness that was going on. As far as Nick, I got to give him a 10 out of 10. I don't know how you don't give him a 10 out of 10. He managed to play himself without being too weird. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, like, he could have just gone way over the fucking top being himself, but I thought he brought a lot of heart and warmth to this character that is supposed to be him and, kind of played up. And I thought his chemistry with Pedro, I think, was incredible. I thought he did a great job at taking the few scenes that they had together and really building this friendship throughout the film that felt believable, so that at the end of the film, when they're in Hollywood together and they just made this huge hit, it felt good and it felt realistic. So got to give him a 10 out of 10. He nailed playing Nick Cage. It's the role he was born to play.
It's so kismet that this is his 100th movie too.
Yeah,
I gotta say
that's awesome.
Maybe that's why they released Prisoners of the Ghostland after having it sit on the shelf for all that time. Was like, well, that'll be 99 if Unbearable Weight's coming out next year. That'll be 100.
Yeah, I hope that's why.
Okay, Nigel, where does this movie land on your Cageometer?
It was all right, 7.
I'd laugh if you were like, honestly, I liked Weatherman more.
No, I did like this more than Weatherman, but I honestly 7 is where it landed for me. I did like it was very meta. I like the metaphor aspect of it. I do like that it is like a love letter to Nicolas Cage. I felt like a lot of what he was giving across was authentic as far as we know from what we've seen of interviews from him and how he talks about himself and now acting and how he views his career and stuff. So I feel like it's a love letter to Nicolas Cage and also Nicolas Cage fans and Nicolas Cage movies. If you have watched as many movies as we have of his, there's definitely a lot of stuff you'll pull out of this that other people might not get. So, and you can tell that the creators of the movie are super fans as well. So they sort of inserted themselves in with the character of Javi, but also in how the movie itself is set up. You can tell that they are very knowledgeable in his work, and it's just it's fun all around to have that kind of a movie.
Yeah, you can tell that they really care about Nick in general. And like I watched the South by Southwest Q&A, and you could tell that there's like genuine love for Nick Cage the whole time. They really, Javi is them for sure.
Yeah, I could see either one of them having a room full of memorabilia and all that stuff. Maybe that was their private collection of things. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah, so where it kind of drags down for me is where it gets confusing in the third act, like we said. Again, we don't know if that was intended. It still kind of sours the experience a little bit for me because I was enjoying the buddy chemistry of the two of them and having this other stuff intrude, which I think is intentional. But I feel like they just kind of did it a little bit sloppier, and things were confusing about it. Like what's going on with the Italian guy? Why is he not showing up, but there's a fake one showing up, and like what it was, I'm confused now just remembering it. Stuff,
You stumped yourself.
Yeah. But I think they could have cleaned that up a little bit more. And again, but it's a level of something like Tropic Thunder, where it's like, it's a perfect fusion of parody and a movie that stands alone, not just a movie that's making fun of its own tropes, but in a way where it's like, yeah, those tropes suck. Why are you putting them in the movie in a way that kind of makes your movie, suck because of it? Not suck. The movie didn't suck, but yeah. So, that's why I give it a 7 out of 10. It's worth the watch. It's enjoyable. I'll watch it again once I've watched more Nicolas Cage movies. I might enjoy it more that way, especially now that I know the overall story. I can piece together a little bit more what they were trying to do, and maybe the more confusing things make more sense in that light. But just there are certain things like the two CIA agents. I didn't think either one of them were funny, so they were dragging down the story even before we got to the point where all the meta stuff started intruding into it. So it's like, okay, and then they just sort of kill both of them, and they're out of the movie now, and it's like,
MacGuffin CIA agents.
Yeah. So again, the movie being a love letter to Nicolas Cage and all of his films, I really enjoyed that part of it. Being a send up to a bunch of action films and stuff, I didn't like that as much. I think they kind of dropped the ball a little bit with that. But still, good movie. Recommended. Nicolas Cage himself, I give him a 9 out of 10. For a lot of the same reasons Vince said, he played himself in a way that's very convincing and was probably pretty difficult for him, like we mentioned earlier, where like you have to walk that line of, do you act completely like yourself? Because then it's not going to seem like you're acting, and the performance is going to look fake and stuff. So you got to at least have to ham it up a little bit in a way that's believable but entertaining. And I think he did that pretty well. Some of the emotional scenes I didn't get as emotional as I've gotten from other Nicolas Cage movies. So that's kind of where I don't give him a full 10 out of 10 on it, because I feel like he could have done better engaging us with that kind of emotional core that I think the movie was going for, especially because of what we've seen him do in other movies where he's, definitely delivering on that. And that could just be, I don't know, the director's inexperience with stuff and doing that kind of thing. But it's also a comedy, so you got to keep it lighthearted and not full on drama. But still, he played himself, did a great job of it. Did a great job when he was playing himself, play somebody else, or when he was playing himself, talk to himself as a different version of himself. That was really fun. It's about as good of a Nicolas Cage performance as you can get out of a comedy that's poking fun of Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but also has a lot of heart in there, and you can tell that he put a lot of his heart into it as well.
Yeah. My Cageometer, I'll echo a lot of the same things. I also gave it a 7. I feel like, it has a lot of heart. I think the secret sauce of the whole movie is him and Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, definitely.
Together. I think some of the shortcomings might potentially be chalked up to the fact that this is like one of the first films that Tom Gormican has ever done, which is a hell of a first step out,
Yeah.
If you think about it in that terms. I mean, he has done films before, and obviously is well respected in Hollywood. If they were going to give him a movie with Zac Efron, Michael B. Jordan, and I forget who else was in that movie, but that was like
Teller.
Miles Teller. Yeah, huge cast on that, and then they gave him $30 million to make this. So obviously there's a lot of trust in this guy and his vision. The only the complaints I have are the same. The third act just kind of is muddled and kind of confusing, and I do think that they were going for that specifically as the trope of action movies, and it turns into a blockbuster. And as soon as they say in the movie that it's turning into a blockbuster, is the moment when things start to get confusing. And I think that they're going back to Nicolas Cage movies for that, which is funny, but at the same time, like I've said, like I just said, it's like you need to ground it in some reality for us to stay engaged. And like Nigel said, with Tropic Thunder and Pineapple Express is another movie where it's like they made fun of action movies, but kept it engaging the whole time through and made you understand. You knew what was happening at any given moment. And this movie is like we're poking fun with making things muddled, but at the same time we're making it hard for you to even follow what the hell we're talking about.
And it was more difficult because what came before it was really great. Like the rest of the movie just being a character driven story about Nick Cage and Javi. Was so good to have him step away from it to do the typical Hollywood blockbuster thing. Even making fun of it, I just think that it brought the movie down a little bit.
I think that's kind of one of the things that they were going for in the movie was sort of let's span the genres that Nick Cage has done in the past, with it being a heartfelt kind of character piece at the beginning and then kind of being a fun kind of buddy thing, which he hasn't done a ton of those types of like buddy stories, but and then turning into an action movie. It had to, but I feel like it could have been executed a little bit better. It's nitpicky, but the onus is on the filmmakers rather than us. As far as Nick, I also gave him a 9. I feel like he did an amazing job in this, and this is one of the better performances we've seen out of him in a long, long time, aside from Pig, which Pig will always be now kind of the pinnacle of like, we've seen what Nick Cage is capable of, and we can never quite give him that same rating. Unless he tops that or at least matches it. And I feel like he did in some ways, but he also, like you said, he didn't draw you in quite as much as he potentially could have. But, that's potentially more realistic of like, that's Nick Cage. That's who Nick Cage really is. And it's hard to give him a 9 when he's playing himself. But like, I don't know. I did love the Nicky character, and that's another thing that brings it down from a 10 to a 7 was the effects were a little bit. They were a little too noticeable for me at times. There's like one scene where they're looking at each other in the car, and it just felt like there was some real uncanny valley stuff going on with young Nicky that completely pulled me out of it. It reminded me of like when Carrie Fisher shows up in Rogue One, where I'm like, what is that abomination? Didn't feel like a real human. Which they were making him thinner and they had to make him younger, and they filmed him at completely different times. I watched the behind the scenes because he had to shave in order to do those other young Nicky scenes. And then when he's acting opposite himself, it was interesting because they just got a guy who kind of looked like Nick Cage to sit next to him. And then I always wondered how they did this, but they had like an earpiece. So he's hearing his delivery as Nick Cage when he's playing Nicky, which he did after the fact. So
I think part of it's also like his voice doesn't match the younger version. Like it's still his modern 60-year-old voice. It does at times,
though. I heard like, especially when he smacks him in the neck in the black and white scene, that sounded like young Nick Cage. But earlier, like when he's like, "I'm trying to help you," or,
there's certain
in that
parts,
same scene, he sounds exactly the same in both ones. So, what can you do? I guess, but
But I think that contributes to that uncanny valley of like, I'm supposed to be looking at a younger Nicolas Cage, but it's obviously a CG face, and then he has older Nick Cage voice in some parts, and it just sort of makes things not quite click.
Yeah, I think for the most part, though, he did capture the mannerisms and the feel of young Nick Cage, especially like going back to, trying to think. I mean, really, the Wogan interview. He kind of captured that same vibe and his movements and his zaniness that he had. I don't know if that was like, I've speculated that it was coked up Nick Cage, but I don't know for sure. He's never really talked much candidly about his harder drugs. He's definitely talked about alcohol and all that kind of stuff, but not so much on the harder drug stuff. So I can't confirm that he was on coke, but he really seems like he's on coke in that interview. But anyways, great performance, and I feel like Nick is kind of still on this renaissance path of like, this is this harkens back to those great performances that he's given in the past that he didn't quite give during that dark period of, the 2010, 11-ish until about 2020.
Yeah.
And we go to Willy's Wonderland or Prisoners of the Ghostland, where it's like he didn't bring this performance at all in those movies.
No.
And it's sad too, because it's I have to assume that he didn't bring that performance because he didn't really care about it as much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or he's just playing that character, and the character that he's playing in those films doesn't have the gravitas of actual Nicolas Cage. But But I still feel 9 out of 10 is pretty high marks for him in this film. He doesn't get to flex the comedy chops as much as he should. I feel he had Raising Arizona and stuff like that when he was first starting out. He was able to be comedic, and he does occasionally in his action movies, but I don't feel like Nick Cage gets to be funny as much as he should, because he is genuinely super funny. Now, hopefully that's what Renfield is. Yeah.
It's supposed to be a comedy, right?
It's supposed to be a comedy. Yeah. But I'm so happy for him that he finally gets to play Dracula. Because that he's been wanting to forever.
I know.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
And before your asshole has had a chance to pucker up, your medulla oblongata will be splattered on the fucking wall behind you. And if that's the last thing I accomplish on this beautiful green earth, well then, ha! I say, ha! What a way to fucking go!
Hard work is something to behold, but with film performance, you're making too many movies, Nick. You're working too hard, Nick. Have the audience miss you more, Nick. I mean, hello, it's my job. I pay my bills. I feed my family. You're annoying. Gosh.
You let go!
Goodbye, Nicolas Cage.
I'll never forget you, man. I don't want to kill you. You're the last person I want to kill. I fucking love you. I love you!
You listen to me. You're Nick fucking... Whoa, Cage!
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything, or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Kim Coppola Cage. Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is kind of going to be our mid-season finale. We're going to take a little break before we release the rest of the episodes in the winter, and that's just because it takes forever to put these episodes together. We've actually been recording since January. Believe it or not, National Treasure, we recorded back in January. So by the time you see this, it'll be August. Audience, by the time you see this, it'll be August, which we're recording this in June, so you do the math. We've been working on this show for a while, so we need time to record the new episodes and edit the new episodes. So that's just kind of how this show's got to work, unfortunately, because these take a lot of time to research, a lot of time to write, and a lot of time to put together. But it's all done with love for Nicolas Cage and for each other.
It kind of fits talking about this movie. It's a love story between Javi and Nick.
This is our way of spending time with each other. Honestly, truly, the only reason we love Nick Cage, obviously, but the reason we're doing this is for an excuse to hang out with each other all the time and to have something to BS about all the time, back and forth. But anyways, we will be back in the winter. In November, I think, is when we're going to come back with new episodes. And when we come back, we'll be doing the 2016 crime thriller, The Trust, where Nicolas Cage stars opposite the man who helped resurrect Nick's career, Elijah Wood, who as we've talked about in the past, started a company called SpectreVision, which is the reason that Nick got cast in Mom and Dad, and then eventually Mandy and Color to Space. And those are the movies that kind of brought him back from, kind of the dark ether of indie films. Got people back on the radar and back on track with his career, and ultimately how he landed Pig and how he got Unbearable Weight. Anyways, he stars as a corrupt cop who works in an evidence room.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds really familiar.
Munt.
He and Elijah Wood. Yeah, Elijah Wood plays Munt. And Nicolas Cage plays a really bad lieutenant of some sort. No, I watched a trailer of it. I've seen 2 different trailers, and one painted it as a very serious movie, and one painted it as kind of a comedy. And so I'm not really sure what to think. I've seen a couple scenes from it, and it's very, very cagey at moments. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm actually really looking forward to this movie. It's one of the movies I've been looking forward to the most this season. But anyways, he and Elijah Wood schemed together to steal some drug money or something. Anyways, but make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
Come here. Yeah, Nick Cage smooches good. You tell him! Nick Cage smooches good!
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon, where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
Is this supposed to be me? It's grotesque.
Just look at the guns.
I'll give you $20,000 for it.